think it means making the economy improve. I think it means building our cultural institutions. Well,
according to what time?
Well, okay. Well, excuse me, Queen. Okay. Yeah, if you want to argue it, that's a good follow-up question. Make America great again. What year do you want to go back to? Careful. The biggest initiative they did, you're saying that the people most likely to support that would be white nationalists? I thought you said they weren't trying to court those votes.
Are you saying that white supremacists voted for Donald Trump so they could...
Sorry. Yes. I'm mind melded. I feel it. We're tapped into the same...
You don't think that there are white supremacists voting for ICE to go and harm migrants?
Are you saying that white supremacists voted for Donald Trump so they could kill migrants?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
You need to take Jimmy Kimmel down.
He did not say that.
Then what did he say?
Oh,
I don't know.
my God. And he tries to weasel it back to this. Oh, my God, dude. It's actually so shameless. These people are shameless.
Strong opinion about the issue.
I don't have a strong opinion about freedom. He says the First Amendment so many times he doesn't have an opinion about the FCC making a phone call to get a guy removed from the air. Really?
On the rise in America, and have both parties abandon their oath to the Constitution. I'm here with our featured guest, moderate commentator Tim Pool.
Hi, I'm Tim Pool. I'm the host of Timcast IRL, and today
he's
I'm
a moderate
by
now.
progressives. My first surrounded claim is that the mainstream left commits more violence than the mainstream right.
If you'd like to be the first debater, get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Bum.
How's it going? Hey.
Great to meet you, buddy. How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
There seems to be like a broader implication with your prompt that there's this domestic threat from mainstream left politicians. Like, do you really think Hillary Clinton's like leading the Vanguard Revolution Party? Like, no. What is your take?
When you look at the violence that we do see, it's from, I describe it as from blunt to acute, which is with the fringe extreme right, you'll see extreme mass shootings. You'll see, someone will show up and they'll unload on people, things like that. On the left, though, you'll see riots, vandalism that you don't see from the right. But the point I'm making is that when you break down the ideology that motivates individuals that commit political violence, there is more often an overlap between what the Democratic Party espouses ideologically and what we see in street-level violence, as well as maybe assassinations. What the Republicans would espouse?
I mean, I couldn't disagree more. What ideologies that the Democratic Party is promoting that leads to these types of violence? Anytime you see an act of violence that's typically attributed to the left, it is immediately condemned by every Democrat politician.
Indeed.
You couldn't point to one that actually endorses that. Or you have somebody like Donald Trump, who's literally the president of the United States, saying that we should call for the death of congressional members who are fulfilling their civic duty and saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't fulfill illegal orders if you're in the military, and Donald Trump's asking for them to be put to death. How is that not inciting to violence?
No, that's absolutely terrifying. I completely disagree with that.
My
point more so is that when you see, say, the George Floyd or the BLM riots, you end up with Biden and Kamala themselves promoting fundraisers for those accused of committing these crimes.
That's not true. That's a very strong claim. Kamala retweeted one time a bail fund for Minnesota. I think it got like 140 likes, maybe. And that's for bail. Bail is a legal process thing. It's not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It doesn't release people from prison who are murderers to let them roam the streets and kill more people. It's bail. A judge still has to approve it. It's not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It's so weird how they try to twist this. Meanwhile, Donald Trump literally pardoned all the J6ers, which is literally a get-out-of-jail-free card.
And Kamala themselves promoting fundraisers for those accused of committing these crimes.
Which crimes could you point to?
So in Minnesota, you had there was a firefighter who opened a sports bar. It was burned down. In fact, when the local news went to interview him about his dream bar being burnt to the ground, it was ransacked. I don't think it was burned to the ground. They while they're filming the story, there were people looting a safe and stealing it.
Well, I think that there's absolutely a big difference between a lot of the private buildings or private enterprises that were targeted versus like public institutions like the police precinct. Like, you're somebody who, I've seen the iconography on your show. You're a big patriotic guy. You love 1776, right? That wasn't the most peaceful way that we had, criticizing our government or saying that tyranny shouldn't exist.
How long was the Revolutionary War
going
on before they signed the Declaration?
I will say that the police precincts, the same people who committed a brutal murder using state violence in order to justify that, I think we can understand why people would rightfully be mad without any accountability. Which political party is in control of the police department in Minneapolis? That is not the central. First of all, we're talking about the mainstream political left. Which politicians are endorsing that type of behavior?
Never said politicians were endorsing it.
Then what's the mainstream left?
So you have activists whose ideology aligns with politicians.
You'd say that
wouldn't you say? Isn't it fair to say that an activist definitionally is not like on the mainstream? Like, don't activists tend to be more radical? Like, definitionally speaking, I feel like they kind of are. No. An activist?
Those activists identify with the Democratic Party.
No, I would say the Democratic Party.
Because let me tell you, the leftists that you could talk to, not the biggest fans of the Democratic Party.
In favor of Black Lives Matter?
I would say, yeah. I'd say even most moderates. I'd say actual moderates, not right-leaning conservatives who claim to be moderates.
Were the riots
usually those people also are
riots. First of all, the vast majority of riots didn't even have rioters in them. And the vast majority of the protests were peaceful. I mean, obviously there were a lot of violent ones too, but I mean, there were a ton. It was like one of the largest protest environments in the United States. And also, I know that we're not allowed to talk about COVID when it impacted Trump, but we are allowed to talk about COVID when it impacted other things, depending on what we're talking about. Like, part of the BLM riot stuff, probably was the fact that people had literally fucking nothing else to do because there was nothing else fucking going on, and people been locked indoors for fucking however many months, and people were like, fuck it, let's go do some shit because there's nothing else to do here.
Agree that police violence is something that should be discouraged.
Were the riots Black Lives Matter motivated?
They were motivated.
By Black Lives Matter. So that ideology is espoused by...
No,
so my point is
Black Lives Matter is not encouraging violence. Black Lives Matter is recognizing systemic inequality.
Never said
where
they were telling people to go be violent. I'm saying that there are violent individuals, and with the riots, a lot of them, which we've seen.
Can you tell me
how
who
about this?
Tell me who Chris Ray is? Do you know who Chris Ray is?
Explain it to
The
me.
YouTuber?
Oh,
Chris
YouTube.
Ray Gun? No, it must be somebody else. Chris Ray or no, is he talking about Ray the, fuck me. Was it the temporary FBI or CIA director? Who am I thinking of?
A show talking about politics every day. I would think that you know. But Chris Ray was
Okay, let's not do this.
I think
We
it
have a
was
point to make. Let's make
guys
one.
before, after Comey?
Let's
Yes,
not try
sir.
and play
Yes,
these
sir.
games.
So Chris Ray was the former FBI director under Donald Trump's first term.
Yep.
He said that he even
Yeah.
agreed with the findings from both the Congressional Research
That was
Section
close.
that right-wing
YouTube
violence
going for a
is
second.
way more proliferate in
But we're
this
not
country
talking
than
about
left-wing
that.
violence.
That's not
That
meaningful
is.
to a voter. Let me explain. The Republican Party rejects neo-Nazism, correct?
No, Donald Trump invited Nick Fuentes to have dinner with him, with Kanye West.
So tell me one politician who went out and campaigned for the neo-Nazi vote.
I'm blanking on his name, Gozar, Gozar, and
Is that a
and
mainstream
Arizona.
view
Oh
in
my
this country?
god!
Well, we can talk
We'll
about-
go about. Do they ever support neo-Nazis? Yeah. Nick Fuentes invited to dinner. Okay. Well, do they ever campaign on these things? Gozar did. He said a bunch of crazy things. Okay. Well, does he represent like all of that? It's like Jesus Christ.
Gozar, we could talk about Matt Gaetz. We could talk about.
Matt Gaetz is not endorsing neo-Nazism. And Donald Trump
Are
said
you kidding me?
Nazis should be condemned entirely.
No, he's literally partnering with the America First movement. He was a
America First
chosen
and neo-Nazism are totally different.
Bro, so you don't think do you think Nick Fuentes is a neo-Nazi? I
wouldn't-
forgot
I
you've
wouldn't-
had him on your show. Oh my god, I literally forget.
I wouldn't describe Nick Fuentes as a neo-Nazi.
You don't think that Nick Fuentes celebrating Adolf Hitler is not neo-Nazi adjacent?
I think you have to be very specific on what your terms are. And so when you go to an American voter and say something like...
This is our moderate, by the way, everybody. This is our moderate.
Indeed.
Keep going.
So when you go to a regular American and ask them what is meaningful to them in terms of an election, you don't...
Wait a second. Hold on. Wait. I think I'm noticing something. With the facial hair constantly covering up the head, the insane hypersemantic arguments to avoid taking accountability for crazies on their side. Hold on. Hold on. What is something happening here? Is there something happening here? Just kidding.
Don't have Democrats or Republicans endorsing violence. But you also don't have... Charlie Kirk's a good example. He threw out Nick Fuentes. He threw out white identitarians.
Yeah, because they were
white
personally feuding constantly, not because of some huge ideological disagreement. To be fair, they did have ideological disagreements, but it was mainly the personal vitriol between the two.
nationalists from his events. They were not welcome. That's mainstream. You don't have riots coming from the Republican Party and the right, although you do have January 6th and things like that.
Things like that.
When you take a look at the shootings of the Tesla facilities, the execution of Aaron Danielson, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and one of the attempted assassinations on Donald Trump, not the Pennsylvania one, you can see the underlying ideologies overlap with the Democratic Party. When you take a look at like Nick Fuentes, he's opposed to the Republican Party. He's been actively endorsing Democrats right now.
He's been saying that the Republican Party is too left for him. It's not that he's opposed
That's
to the
my
Republican
point.
Party in principle.
This is literally my point.
No,
Nick
but-
Fuentes comes out and says, do not vote for Trump.
What-
The mainstream Republican Party is at odds with these people.
No, again, if you're looking at all of the empirical data, the violence is way more on the right.
But
So
It's
you
hard
can
to
say what you're
like, because his point is just going to make you sound like a fucking loony radical to everybody, but fuck me, I guess, right? Like, the right-wing violence in the past year and a half has been involved in like the mass vigilante extrajudicial kidnapping and then like trafficking to other nations of brown people in this country. But because they did it with ICE and because Donald Trump did it with airplanes on Friday nights, Saturday mornings, it's not seen as right-wing violence. This is always the asymmetry, or at least in my lifetime, it's been the asymmetry between left-wing and right-wing violence, is the government is always exempt from these conversations, right? The government doesn't count as participating in the left or right violence. It's just the government doing government things. But when the right is in power, god damn, do they bring the executive down on their perceived political enemies and use them in the most violent ways possible. And then when they're out of office, it's like, well, what right-wing violence have? How would you be so fucking retarded to go out and do right-wing violence as a right-winger when you can join ICE for free? Why would you ever do that? You don't need to get the white cloak out. You can just get the immigration vest, right? It's like, but that's a whole other. I think people would think you're radical. I think even in the Paul Crummy argument, but it's
feelings are. You
That's
can
not
say
my
that.
feeling nor the claim.
No,
it's not meaningful to a voter to say we don't like neo-Nazis and white supremacists because the
It's
Republican
meaningful
Party
to say.
is not saying
It's
they want
meaningful
to
to
white
say.
America.
Let's be objective of where the violence is coming from, and if it's more substantially coming from the right, that is a problem that
But
needs to be
it's
tackled.
not coming from Charlie Kirk.
Okay,
Who-
we're not
who's
talking
killed?
about Charlie Kirk. We're talking
No,
about
we
the
are
overall
Char-
ideology.
It's all about
In fact,
Charlie
we're not.
Kirk.
So you're telling
That's
me
not my
It's always
claim.
been
you're telling me
about
that the
Charlie Kirk.
prioritization of hierarchies, both ethnic, both cultural, that is not a dangerous ideology. But
never
something
said
like
that.
BLM that says, hey, maybe we should take back police violence. Maybe you should have accountability for people who are in charge of certain aspects of our nation, committing violence on citizens. Those are absolutely completely different ideologies. And the fact that you're saying
they are
it is more
different.
motivating for violence, that the left wing is encouraging people to take those that are committing violence accountable,
In the
that
last 10
absolutely is
years,
not
there
more.
have been over 465 incidents of left-motivated political violence that
No
align with the
credible
Democratic Party.
standardized
And
data
there's
set
been
substantiates over 465 incidents of Democratic aligned or mainstream left political violence in the past decade. In reference to this claim, party leadership repudiation cannot consistently be used to exclude right-wing violence while attributing all left-coded violence to Democrats.
one on the Republican side, which is January 6th, which admittedly is particularly egregious. January 6th was, that's why we talk about blunt versus acute. Now, the problem
I've never
is, I already know what
in my life heard this distinction before Tim Pool made it. Blunt versus acute? Maybe in some jargon or in some reporting or some literature, I've never heard this before. Usually it is acute versus chronic, short and fast and sudden, and chronic is a condition over a long time period. Acute things might be harder to prevent. Chronic things we should be doing better at preventing. Acute things usually need a more dramatic, fast response. Chronic things, you can address this, et cetera. But I've never heard this like blunt versus acute thing before.
all you're going to say, you're going to cite FBI stats in Cato, but it's not meaningful to me or any voter to tell me why white supremacists are violent, because I don't like white supremacists, nor will I vote for them. And more importantly, you bring up Nick Fuentes, he is not aligned with Republicans, and he's advocated against them.
I think for somebody who
Republicans
has,
don't like him.
I think for somebody who has a political show where you talk about this stuff every day, you are completely misreading the conversation when you're saying that those that are engaged in like civil disobedience are like
I'm not talking
Democrat
about civil
voters. You're telling me
You're
that those
misframing
people
what
are
I'm saying.
canvassing for Democratic
Never
politicians,
said that.
which is
I'm
absolutely
actually,
not true.
Absolutely in favor of canvassing. I'm in favor of protesting.
I'm not saying that
for
you're.
racial-
I'm not saying that you're against that.
So
but I'm
don't,
saying
don't try and frame my argument like I'm upset with protests, because
No.
I've defended Black Lives Matter blocking streets. I've defended left-aligned progressive groups like anti-capitalist groups blocking streets and environmental groups. I stand with civil disobedience, and I've defended them every single time. If you want to block a road, there's
what
a
is it that you're
tolerance.
saying is more violent on the left? You mentioned Black Lives Matter.
Let's
You
give a few
mentioned
examples.
these
Let's
protests.
talk about the Tesla facilities being unloaded upon or shot up, right? These are motivated by an ideology that you will hear from Elizabeth Warren. Now, of course, she's not telling people to shoot anybody, but she is coming out saying Elon Musk is a dangerous threat to this country. And then you end up with someone going and pulling a rifle up and shooting up a Tesla.
When you understand that the right always says politicians are not responsible for individual actions.
What individual-
Elizabeth
what
Warren
actions?
saying, hey, maybe we should have
It's
the same
also
sort of
really
economic
annoying
policy.
that like people can, like, there's a reason why you are typically encouraged to just stay away from politics if you work in business, because like it's just all you're going to do is alienate some people. There's very little gain for it. Why would you inflame so many people by it's not like Elon came out and gave milquetoast political takes. He came out and he gave hardcore politics takes. If I was a Tesla owner, I would be resentful of the fact that the CEO of my company is like putting me in the crosshairs by taking such a strong stance politically on like the most divisive issues on the planet, constantly on Twitter. That would make me feel kind of shitty. Not that excuses any of the Tesla attacks or whatever. I want to say there were like 12 Tesla cars that were firebombed or something over the course of a month or two. Not that that's acceptable, but it's not like there were thousands of them or hundreds or dozens of dealerships or whatever. I think it was like 12, which again is not good. But it's like, God damn, when Elon, who has the most recognizable and identifiable cars on the road, goes out and says some of the most inflammatory shit, and then there's like the thing to attack is right there. It's like, Jesus Christ, man.
They have in Scandinavia.
Why was
That
Aaron
is not her
Danielson
encouraging. Go shoot up a Tesla facility.
Why was
Where
Aaron
Donald
Dan-
Trump's saying, let's hang the
Answer the
people.
question.
Let's hang the people who encourage those in the military to actually fulfill their
Again,
duties. That is completely.
My claim is not that the right is
He's
completely
the
innocent.
leader of the Republican Party, my dude.
And I
To say that
condemn-
these are equivocable at all is
I
completely
condemn
false.
100% what Donald Trump said, calling for the death of those
Pause.
politicians.
We have to move on.
Great to meet you, Tim.
Likewise.
If you'd like to be the next debater, get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Hi.
What I find really interesting is the whole premise of like the Occupy Wall Street movement was to protest, right?
Indeed.
It was specifically geared towards making sure that the general public was understanding the situation at the time, which had a lot to do with anti-capitalist motives, right? And so when we're talking about who's more violent than who, we have to be very specific that the violence that is recorded in the data is not ideological violence. It's not this like rhetoric. It has to be evidentiary. So if you're going to say like, oh, Black Lives Matter, and any leftists that are associated with that are automatically violent, that's just not the case.
I didn't say that.
But that's what you're implying.
No, I'm implying that when you have riots in this country, overwhelmingly, the underlying ideology aligns with the mainstream left ideology of this country.
But what you're saying in your prompt that you wrote.
Oh, fuck. Somebody brought this up to me in an email, and I haven't made this point recently, but it is a really good point that we're very quick to say that the BLM stuff, like we just kind of like take that one on the chin as like left-wing violence, but It wasn't actually really at all. It was crime. There were people that were out there rioting because they thought they could fucking be opportunists or whatever the fuck over all of the over all the protests that were happening. But like, are we really saying, because conservatives will try to fucking deflect on anything being the fault of their rhetoric ever, right? The Buffalo shooter, all these other things. Oh, well, they don't defend neo-Nazis or whatever. But then it's like, okay, well, for BLM, like all the rioting stuff, that was left-wing violence. Like, was it though? I'm sure some of it probably was, but like a whole bunch of it, which was just like breaking into buildings, like stealing shit, that was just crime. That was people rioting and taking advantage of like a fucking situation. Like, no, there is no Democratic rhetoric. Well, no, I'm sure there were some activist people who were like, oh, all businesses suck or whatever bullshit, or Hassan defending fucking shoplifting or whatever. But to just have to take that one on the chin and say, okay, fine, all the BLM rioting stuff counts as left-wing violence, I guess, that's kind of bullshit. I feel like that's a little bit bullshit.
Is that the left is more violent than the right.
The mainstream political left commits more violence than the mainstream political right.
Right, the mainstream. And
Indeed.
what I'm trying to tell you is
Like,
that
was the average BLM rioter like politically motivated? They're like, yes, Kamala and Black Lives, and we're gonna go blow this store up or whatever? Or was it like, time to get some free shit, boy? Hell yeah.
Knowing that is the actual evidence. If
It
you're
does,
talking,
actually.
no, it doesn't.
My team has put together over 10 years,
75 to
465
80% of violence, actual violence that is being tracked as domestic terrorism comes from the right. It's white supremacist groups.
And white supremacists are not in a large political party getting voted for.
Yes, they are. The
They're
Republican Party is very largely right wing. It is very far right.
But they're not white supremacists, nor are the
are.
Americans voting for a Republican Party because they
What
want
do you
white
think
supremacy.
make America great
no.
again means?
Well, now we've gone.
I think it means making the economy
little bit
improve.
too
I think
far.
it means
No.
building our cultural institutions. Well,
According to what time?
Well,
According to
okay.
what time? I'll
Well,
give you that.
excuse me, Queen. Okay. Yeah, if you want to argue it, that's a good follow-up question. Make America great again. What year do you want to go back to? Careful. Careful.
Probably the 80s.
Okay.
Because Trump's an old man.
I would say
so Make America Great Again was about going back to the time period that Donald Trump likes, and that's all it meant, and that's what we know because Trump is old. What a weak answer.
90s.
seriously doubt he
90s
meant
were
the
great.
80s. He's much
Yeah,
older
that
than
too.
Well, your interpretation
Trump would have been like
of,
in his fucking 40s. When was he born? Was Trump born in the 40s? How old was he again? Donald Trump birth date. He was born in 46. God damn. Jesus Christ. 46. This guy might remember seeing stuff on TV about like the fucking Korean War. God damn. 1946. That's an old motherfucker. Holy.
Donald Trump's opinions is separate from when we see a riot, what is motivating the riot. When we
His
see
opinions
an
lead his
assassination.
policies, don't they?
Indeed, and
Wouldn't you say that's what
no one
politics
here
is
is
all
making the
about?
claim that Donald Trump is innocent, nor does he not have individuals who
But you're
engage in
attempting
violence
to
based
make
on
a
similar
claim
ideologies.
that his type of
Donald
ideology
Trump
that
is older
leads
than
his
Israel. True. So is Biden. True.
policy is not nearly as violent as the left,
How
which
many
is
riots have there been to the right?
largely anti-capitalist, which is largely anti-fascist. None of what you're saying makes any sense. It sounds like
It
you're
does.
honestly grifting a lot.
How many Republican riots have there been?
I don't know the
Is it
exact
one?
number.
Maybe one in
but what are
January
you
6th? This is a
classifying as a
bad one.
riot? What? Because if you're
Let's say-
conflating
let's say-
protesting with rioting,
We're not.
that's a very different
No,
thing.
we're talking specifically about people ransacking Tesla facilities, vehicles, charging
You're
stations.
so obsessed with the Tesla thing. Why don't we actually talk
I
about?
think it might be
I
because
mean, I
someone
don't know
took a
if Musk,
rifle and
I
started
don't know
shooting
if
at the
Musk is
building.
like investing in your company or something.
What
But
about
let's
the guy
like
who took
remove
the rifle and was shooting at? I don't even know about this rifle shooting of the building for Tesla. I'm sure it happened. I don't remember the story. Remember the guy who was shooting at the? Was it the CDC? Or was it an NIH building? It was around some vaccine shit. They started shooting up the what the fuck? Gee, you don't remember this? Somebody said people are saying what in chat? Wait, shots at was it CDC? Was it a CDC building? Oh, not shots. Oh, ooh, see the AI know what I'm talking about. Hell yeah. Shooter attacked CDC headquarters to protest COVID-19 vaccines. Sorry, the reason why a lot of you guys in chat might not know anything about this is because right-wing violence literally is never spoken about by anybody in the fucking media ever. But anyway. The man who fired more than 180 shots with a long gun at the headquarters of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention broke into a locked safe to get his father's weapons and wanted to send a message against COVID-19 vaccines. By the way, that's a hardcore right-wing violent person, but you know.
the Tesla out of it. That has nothing to do with what your actual prompt is saying.
No, that's
It
actually what my
sounds-
claim is.
No, it sounds a lot like
Well, then you're arguing
you
something
decided.
else.
No, you're arguing something else because it
I am
sounds
arguing
like you
something
went
else
from
from you.
somebody who was doing really important work in Occupy Wall Street to then
Which is
grifting
what?
all the way to defending
was the
far-right
important
people. That's crazy.
What was the important work?
What important work?
You said I was
in
doing-
terms of Occupy Wall Street,
Yes.
I think, you know, in terms of that movement, I thought it was it was one of the first times in our generation that we were able to see an actual organization against
Can
capitalism.
I ask you how old you are?
No, you cannot ask me how
Were
old
you
I am.
politically active during Occupy Wall Street?
Yes, I was.
Did you follow the news about me during Occupy Wall Street?
Not specifically.
And the news was that Occupy denounced the violence. I had filmed leftists deflating police tires who physically attacked me, and I was attacked by a masked individual smacking my camera out of his hand. Occupy
so this is a
Wall
personal
Street.
vendetta for you?
Then
because
gave
a
me
single
indeed,
person or
if
a
you're
small
getting
group
emotional
of
about
people?
this and you don't want to have an argument,
I'm
that's
not gonna-
fine.
Do I look emotional, guys?
You do
I feel
because
pretty relaxed.
you don't know what happened during Occupy, and your argument is
pretty
off
mad.
because you don't.
This honestly sounds like you
Okay,
have
pause,
a personal vendetta
pause.
from your
Not
history
an
that
argument.
has
Here.
absolutely nothing with what you're
Guys,
actually
you have to
prompted,
pause
which
it
is
here.
Not an
around
argument.
You have
far-right
to
people
pause.
being much more violent than the
argument.
left.
We have to pause. Love the passion, but pause. All right. If you'd like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
You got it. Nice to meet you. How's it going?
Good. I think we should just get to the heart of it. Donald Trump is a fascist. He has Nazis in his administration. His entire messaging was resonating with Nazis from the very beginning. Donald Trump, when rallying for 2024, had a massive rally in Madison Square Garden. What was the significance of that rally?
You tell me?
Yeah, it's the same place, same date as the Nazis in the 1940s. Literally. Donald Trump said that immigrants are poisoning the blood of America and their environment. Who also said that?
You tell me?
Hitler. Literally. Donald Trump has openly said things as dog whistles. So you may say that it's not mainstream, but the entire ideology of the right speaks to those people.
Let me ask you, what
Yeah.
do you mean by fascist?
Far-right, authoritarian, ultra-nationalistic.
Oh, so now you can't
14
be-
tenets of fascism,
I mean,
all that.
but there's a specific definition of fascist. Do you just mean that he's an authoritarian?
Because the Democrats
No,
are.
I mean that he meets all 14 tenets of fascism.
All 14
which
of
is
them.
what?
Yes.
You want to go through all 14 points?
I'm trying to understand your argument. But so my point largely is we see people say Trump is a fascist, but there's, if you go to an academic and you look at fascism, say Italy, there's a common
Mussolini.
argument that you have the merger of corporation and state as the defining element of what fascism is.
There's different forms of fascism, right?
Well, and that's the point. That's
The
why I
actual premise is the authoritarian. Donald Trump is absolutely a fascist. He's, like I said, he has Nazis in his administration. I
Like
think
who?
we're shifting. Pete Hegseth.
How is Hegseth a
He
Nazi?
literally has a proud Nazi tattoo on his chest.
He does not.
Stephen Miller is
Miller's a
absolutely
better
a Nazi.
example by this.
Stephen
Hegseth
Miller
does
his,
not have a Nazi tattoo on his chest.
That's yeah.
No, he
The-
does
the
not. He
cross
has,
on
he
his
has a
chest?
Catholic cross on his chest.
Okay. All right. Cool.
I mean, guys, look, I went to Catholic school when I was little. I left in fifth
Sure.
grade.
So-
Pete Hegseth is not a Nazi.
Yeah, that's okay. Cool. Question for you.
Thanks, Tim.
When Donald Trump and his administration specifically actually implement policies that go at the heart of what Nazis want,
Which
right?
is-
Targeting
which is what?
the first group of people they target was the transgender community. Same thing as a Nazi. The actual Nazis specifically targeted people that weren't like them. There's been a persistent and consistent attack on undocumented immigrants, black people, women, anyone that's not a straight white male in America.
My principal claim is not that Donald Trump is innocent, nor
Yeah.
perfect, nor good. My claim is that when you look at street-level violence, domestic terror, et cetera, you'll find more violence coming from the mainstream left as opposed to the mainstream right.
Sure, when you-
I do think it's fair to point out white supremacists are violent. They do evil and horrible things.
Yeah, I wanted to get
and we
to
all
that.
we all condemn
The
them.
white supremacists are a part of the mainstream right.
But they're not.
They literally are.
There's no circumstance
All right,
where you
we're
can
gonna
go on
pause here.
TV.
Thank you. You can return to your seat. You've been voted out.
Nice meeting you.
Jeez. They vote him out so
If you'd
fast
like
on
to
this
be the
show.
next
Holy
debater,
fuck.
please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
How's it going?
That was an easy grab. You're right there.
So the first thing I'll say is I think it's a bit disingenuous to characterize all of the property damage committed during BLM
Yes.
as left-wing violence, because there are going to be rogue opportunists during the biggest civil rights protests in American history. That's first and foremost.
job.
The second thing I would like to say is I don't think it makes sense to confine political violence strictly in the context of individuals
Oh
acting
my
with
God.
political
This guy's a full-blown Marxist and accelerationist now? This guy is? Or the last guy? Fuck, he's about to bring up the fact that the government can commit violence on your behalf.
motive violently. I think it ignores institutional violence. Theoretically, you could say the 1960s civil rights movement was more violent than the counter-protesters, but obviously the institutional violence of segregation.
I completely agree.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so what I would say is that the Republican Party is, and the mainstream political right is far more violent because they support ICE ripping and separating families from one another, even from people who have no criminal background. ICE deaths under ICE
I'll address
custody
that.
have skyrocketed even as a matter of
Yeah, absolutely.
war abroad, etc. But
Domestic. I'd love to talk to war stuff. I'm a big foreign policy guy, but
Big foreign
domestically,
policy guy. Okay.
did this not happen during Barack Obama's administration?
It did, but not to the same extent.
Agreed.
And Barack Obama was criticized for it by who?
Yeah.
The political left.
$90
Agreed.
billion
Right. So-
dollars. The funding initiative for ICE is just unfucking believable, guys. Holy shit.
So my point is not to say again that there's no violence on the right, and I think the institutional argument is actually a good one. However, my view largely is when you look at Occupy Wall Street, for which I was there and I watched police instigate fights, or when I was on the ground during the protests on West Florissant Avenue, and I saw police throw a flashbang grenade at protesters who were not doing anything violent. The issue is these police are under Democrat administration still, where they're
Yes, the well-known Democrat administration. Barack Obama himself was ordering these cops, I heard, actually.
Their chiefs are often appointed by Democrat politicians. So again, I understand the left and progressives.
That to me is also a little disingenuous because it's not as though the police, as a matter of its institution, is a left-wing institution.
No, it's
in fact, usually the police are protecting and on the other side.
If you
of
want to make the argument that ICE under Trump, I'll make the argument of police under the Democrats.
Sir, well, I don't.
We're not arguing about the police under Democrats or the police under Donald Trump. He's arguing about ICE, which was uniquely expanded by Donald Trump and then uniquely weaponized by Donald Trump in a way that nobody in U.S. history, as far as I'm aware, has ever done before.
Does law enforcement defer to their politicians
law enforcement
or not?
does not answer to politicians. That's not how any law enforcement works. There might be a law enforcement initiative, maybe, that a chief or something undertakes by the mayor, but like I don't know what that is a meaningless statement that completely misunderstands how the police function. But
It depends. Because ICE is an executive agency, they do.
And the police
operate
department in
commandment
Minneapolis is under the Democrats, yes.
Right,
and we all agree that there's problems there.
But they're criticized and often on the other end of left-wing protesters. So, for instance, the protests against ICE here in Los Angeles, it's usually against left-wing. So, what is it? Left-on-left violence? Is that what you're claiming?
Sometimes, yes, absolutely.
You think police protesting against or committing violence against left-wing protesters? It's left-on-left violence, really?
Yes.
I think that's ridiculous and absurd.
The police who live in these cities tend to be more moderate, but they're not hard conservatives.
But is the institution is policing as an institution?
Particularly
a left-wing institution.
In New York, well, I define a left-wing institution.
Exactly.
What I would say is Democrat politicians are the ones appointing these police chiefs and these administrations who are enacting these policies.
But are they?
So when you are voting for someone into office, this is not conservatives doing it. It's not mainstream right-wingers putting in police that beat protesters.
But who politically supports the police as a matter of their rhetoric and ideology? The right or the left?
The right. But the right doesn't live in these places.
Yeah, but
nor do they appoint these people.
Sure, but
don't tell me that ICE under Donald Trump, but not police under Democratic politicians.
Hold on. The left doesn't appoint protesters who commit random acts of violence against property.
That's not my argument.
I know, but earlier you were making the case that it's the ideology that motivates what these rioters are doing, and that's the reason why the left is ultimately responsible.
What I would say is the underlying ideology is overlapping with the Democratic Party.
Sure, and so what I'm saying is that if you want to be consistent, the underlying ideology that supports the police and as a matter of institution, and when the police are cracking down on left-wing protesters, that's overwhelmingly on the side of conservatives.
Except they're not in power in these places, and you're applying a locality to the nation.
They may not be like technically
the police
empowered,
are not motivated by the Republican Party to go out under a Democratic mayor to arrest protesters.
The problem is that the police is still, as a matter of institution, is more of a right-wing institution than a left-wing.
Certainly, even
they're
in
usually
Democratic
on the other
cities.
side of.
But the point is, a police officer who
protesters.
goes out in New York and arrests a protester does so at the behest of a Democratic politician.
I don't
Pause.
think
it's true.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please
Nice
return to
meeting
your
you.
seat. All right, if you'd like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
What's up, young man? Listen.
Oh, yeah. I haven't been young for a minute.
Now, slow down with that. Listen, it's really quick.
Uh-oh. We got the handshake refusal. Hold on. Let me Red Bull it up. Fuck it.
I condemn is really cheap cop-out. That's not going to work.
It's not an argument.
Because the people around us are not low IQ,
Whoa.
like your average viewer. It's important to recognize.
Make an argument.
So I'm about to.
You don't have one? Is that it? If you want to be insults, we can go for insults and
I'm about to.
We can rap.
I'm about to.
You want to rap?
Stop delaying my time. So it's important to recognize that simply I condemn is not sufficient when the Republican Party has created a permission structure for individuals to go out and do violence against, I'm about to tell you, with impunity. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is a good example.
Law enforcement.
The Trump administration, they
Criminal
violated,
electoral process.
you know they've lost in the courts 10,000 times, right?
That's not true.
It is true. Politico actually released a
10,000
report on it.
Current
They lost
published
10,000
ruling.
times.
Or the most current published count is at least 6,850 rulings against the Trump administration's ICE mandatory detention policy out of at least 19,400 federal district court rulings. So he's actually undercounting it. Jeez. Sheesh.
It would be
Last
like
year,
10,000.
They murdered numerous American citizens. And guess what happened to the individuals that carried out those
Nothing.
killings? What happened to them?
What happened to them?
Have they been prosecuted? Any investigations? Do you know?
I believe they have not.
Why? It's almost as if when you commit violence,
You're wrong.
you are going to be protected. That's what's going on. That's why Kristi Noem went out and said that Alex Freddie was a domestic terrorist. That's why Stephen Miller said the same thing. And everybody in the entire Republican Party apparatus is echoing those talking points. Because whenever there's violence, they don't condemn it. They condone it, they congratulate it, and they pardon it.
Law enforcement, duly elected by a population that voted in plurality for ICE to go out and engage in these
Kill American
behaviors,
citizens?
which sometimes, yes,
It's
absolutely.
just crazy.
And-
Hassan does this too, actually, sometimes. Oh, and I've heard Pisco and them do this argument. You ever notice that people do this thing where sometimes they'll defend the policy or the thing on its merits, but then other times they'll do this thing where they'll retreat to like, oh, well, that's what the voters wanted. So you're saying the voters are wrong? And it's like, wait, what the fuck? It's very fucking annoying, this back and forth. You said 6K, correct it now? What? Oh, I thought it said 16K. It was 16.8K. That's not an argument. I don't know what the point is. Well, the point is to try to shirk the responsibility from the craziness of the administration. Like, that's not an argument for anything, bro.
They voted for ICE to kill American citizens, really?
Yes. Do you?
The average Republican, I don't think they're that
Who
crazy.
said the average Republican would vote? But do you not believe that there are people in this
Said
country
the
that would
average
vote for
Republican would vote. What? Hello? What are we talking about? Are we lost right now?
ICE to harm people? Is that
Is this your argument?
Do you believe?
This is terrible. Tim.
So you think not a single person in this country
Now,
wants to
not
harm
a single
illegal
person.
immigrants?
Oh, what?
We're talking about the fact that there's a top-down approach by Republicans like Donald Trump.
Can I ask you the question
to
again?
justify
Can you answer?
murder
Can you answer the
and
question?
allow it to happen, foment violence in this country?
Can you answer
And
the
you're running
question?
cover for it.
Can
as
you,
a
can
moderate.
you? Actually, you just did it.
No, I didn't.
See, I'm
actually
pointing
condemned
out.
ICE violence. You're saying that people vote for it or whatever.
You don't think that there are white supremacists voting
Oh
for ICE to go and
my
harm migrants?
God. You should tie this back now to the thing. Wait, I thought you said earlier that they weren't trying to court white supremacist votes. Now you're saying that the biggest funding initiative, the biggest novel funding initiative the Trump administration took, which was that $90 billion funding for ICE, the biggest initiative they did, you're saying that the people most likely to support that would be white nationalists? I thought you said they weren't trying to court those votes. Or is that not the average Republican? Or what is stupid area to retreat into for this on Tim?
Are you saying that white supremacists voted
Oh,
for Donald
fuck!
Trump so they could...
Sorry. Yes. I'm mind melded. I feel it. We're tapped into the same...
You don't think that there are white supremacists voting for ICE to go and harm migrants?
Are you saying that white supremacists voted for Donald Trump so they could kill migrants?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Damn, he owned you there, David. Get fucked. He didn't even
good to
respond. You run into these sometimes where they bite like such a crazy bullet. You're like, fuck. You had like 12 steps ahead, and then they just fucking tried to auto asphyxiate themselves. You're like, wait.
That white supremacists make up part of the Republican Party, and Donald Trump's doing their bidding.
Yes,
Congratulations.
Oh my God. Yeah. See, he got there, and he got there live. Yes. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And I don't know why Tim would own this in the end after arguing almost the exact opposite with the last person. But okay.
I believe they do.
Okay.
The initial claim that I'm making is that there is absolutely violence on the right. I already agree with one of the previous debaters that there's institutional violence from the right as well. The best argument against my claim actually is that the right, when they get levers of power, will use law enforcement as their vehicle for the violence they want to engage in. Those things are all fair. My point is that we are not
That's a nice long drawn-out concession. Thank you for...
But it's not a concession because maybe we agree.
Oh, okay.
See, I think...
didn't you say the modern political left commits more violence than modern political right? So now you're saying...
Just because there are riots coming from the left does not mean they're morally right or wrong, or does not mean the right is better or worse. This is a statement about volume of violence that we see and a meaningful issue to a voter as to what is the underlying motivation that we see pushing violence in this country. So when you have ICE engaging in these actions...
This is like a Clarence Thomas level of interpretation with that prompt. That is not what
I don't know why you're trying so hard to disagree when we actually have common ground.
Pause.
Okay, wait,
You're
did
out of time.
Run out of time twice? Or I'm confused. Hold on. What was the last?
Right
on some modern
maybe we agree. My point is enforcement as well. The claim that I'm making is that there is absolutely...
And Donald Trump's doing their bidding to kill migrants?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good to know that white supremacists make up part of the Republican Party, and Donald Trump's doing their bidding.
Yes, I certainly believe...
Did they fuck up the sound effect? Did they add this here incorrectly, or?
They do. My point is... This is a invasion that...
This is like a Clarence Thomas level of interpretation with that prompt. That is not what
I don't know why you're trying so hard to disagree when we actually have common ground.
What? Because
Pause, you're out of
it's a
time.
debate show. You're here to fight all the claims.
Thank you.
Nicotine, the ultimate biohacker secret weapon, has made a wild comeback. But why is that clean
What? Okay.
lifestyle
know
still
that
fueled by big
stimulants
tobacco?
Can energize you day to day?
Tobacco's chemical-laden slop? For those who switch out LEDs for incandescence, source raw milk, and read every single label, it's time to stop compromising. Introducing Knick Knack.
Wait, what? Who is this ad for? Hold on, I'm sorry. Wait, what the fuck am I listening to? What?
Nicotine, the ultimate biohacker secret weapon, has made a wild comeback. But why is that clean lifestyle still fueled by big tobacco's chemical-laden slop? For those who switch out LEDs for incandescence, source raw milk, and read every single label, it's time to stop compromising. Introducing Knick Knack, the nicotine solution that actually complements a clean routine. This family-owned company...
The clean routine is the raw milk, reading all the labels. Fuck, I'd forgotten about what the, what was the first example of, oh, what? I haven't heard this in so long. What, that first thing, what was it?
Lifestyle still fueled by big, the ultimate bio...
So I don't even know. I don't even remember what the argument was, that they give you headaches. I don't know if you guys ever remember this, but there was a small period of time where conservatives were trying to push this idea that like LEDs would make you gay or like fuck your brain up or radiation poison you or whatever. So they didn't like the switch from incandescent light bulbs to LED. Conservatives would just fight against the most random shit. But it wasn't that long that lasted, and I don't think the Maha shit and RFK Jr. had all emerged yet, so maybe it wasn't as popular. But yeah, this was like, it was for a small period of time. They hated LEDs, and I'm like, what? Oh my God.
Introducing Knick Knack, the nicotine solution that actually complements a clean routine. This family-owned company manufactures a superior nicotine lozenge right here in the USA. Affectionately known as a lip brick, this fully dissolvable option is crafted with just 6 premium ingredients, including real essential oils for authentic flavor. There are no pH adjusters, no plastic pouches, and absolutely no waste. Available in 3 and 6 milligram strengths, this is nicotine perfected. Reject the compromise and raise the standard. Go to knickknack.com/surrounded and use code surrounded for 20% off, or use the store locator to find knickknacks near you. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
My next surrounded claim is that the Democratic Party has embraced authoritarianism.
If you'd like to be the first debater,
Sorry.
please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
That was fast. Nice to meet you. Let's start off not by, oh God, don't make me defend Republicans. But let's go.
All right.
Oh,
let's talk
true.
about authority.
I'm sorry. I fucked up. Hold on. If there's ever a thing that you're like, why do Republicans hate this? And it's not like the most retarded conspiracy ever, there's actually a shortcut that will probably explain it. And the shortcut is because it came under Obama. That was the LED thing, because Obama was trying to take your cars away, give you green energy bullshit, and then he wanted to steal all your light bulbs that made you look beautiful and natural and replace them with these cold, dead LEDs, so it felt like you were locked in a fucking hospital all day. That's why they hated the LEDs, because it was an Obama thing, and the energy shit and the cash for clunkers and all that, and yeah, that's why they, yeah.
Authoritarianism.
Yeah.
What does an authoritarian government do?
So it's typically, and particularly in my claim, it's a reference to suppression of dissent, suppression of speech, control of voting, or manipulation of voting for the power, for the, let's just call it control by a particular group of
Let's
politically
take those
or...
claims one at a time.
Yeah.
First, on suppression of speech.
Indeed.
Just a few hours ago today, Trump subpoenaed reporters for trying to report accurate information
So Trump's not allowed to investigate crimes now, by the way. That's what this guy's argument is that Trump can't
on the
investigate.
war in Iran.
Wow,
He said,
that's terrible.
No, that can't happen.
Awful.
That's way more authoritarian than what we're seeing on the left. here.
Didn't Obama
Well, I
do it
mean,
with the IRS? He didn't, by the way. That's a total fucking lie.
It's hard to quantify what is more or less authoritarian, but certainly bad when President Trump is trying to stifle speech.
Wait, can you
But
give
do
any example of Biden doing anything even comparable to that?
I can. We can start with Alex Berenson, who is currently in a lawsuit because the Biden administration personally went to social media platforms using his name to be suspended for his reporting
Journalist
on
Alex
COVID vaccination.
Berenson's account was temporarily suspended by Twitter on July 16, 2021, and permanently banned on August 28th for alleged violations of COVID-19 misinformation rules after posts criticizing vaccine effectiveness and mandates discovery later showed White House officials had pressed Twitter about why Berenson had not been kicked off the platform. ...
And mandates.
Okay. At a top level, though, who's doing the majority of the actual suppression of speech here?
I don't really have good words for the Republican Party, to be honest. My issue with this debate is, in fact, what we're seeing right now is that I'll make a claim about the Democratic Party, which has done awful things, and the immediate response is, but the Republicans,
thing.
and I don't like
The
Republicans.
thing that you should fight on here, although I guess that's a challenging argument depending on where you're at. The thing you should fight on here is why were people, well, actually none of the conservatives would buy this, but why were people getting in trouble for stuff related to vaccine misinformation? It's because, depending on your thought process, it's supposed to be because they thought that we were going to fucking die in a historic pandemic, and people were really worried that a whole bunch of people posting insane fucking shit constantly on Twitter or Facebook or whatever was going to get people to not get vaccinated and then die in greater numbers, which actually did happen, by the way, to a lot of conservatives. But that was the fear. Donald Trump doing political witch hunts is not born out of any noble cause, and even conservatives won't pretend otherwise.
Live in a two-party system.
Correct.
Right? We can have this great grift of the Democrats are bad, but and the Republicans, they might be worse, but the Democrats are still bad. But the option is between Democrats and Republicans.
Yes.
So if Republicans are worse, it doesn't really matter if Democrats are slightly bad.
No, I think Democrats are worse.
We don't love Democrats, but we feel that Republicans are way worse when they institute these far more authoritarian policies.
It's hard to quantify more. The question is, does it suppress speech? And I certainly think Donald Trump has taken actions. Let's look at
human lives. If we want to do a quantification here, let's look at ICE.
Wait, real quick.
American
Do I need
citizens
the rocket launchers to go to a kilo, or can I do that with lasers and guns?
killed by ICE. That's way more than the number of American citizens killed by immigration enforcement under, say, Obama.
But it's
right?
way less than the amount of American citizens killed by Barack Obama.
No,
It
this
is.
true.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Look, I don't want to be
Oh,
disrespectful,
my
but
God.
one of the biggest issues to me is the extrajudicial assassination of Abdurrahman al-Awlaki by the Obama administration. And this is what early
Extrajudicial,
on,
the guy was working with a terrorist group overseas, and we have the president of the United States as the commander-in-chief, and he is totally allowed to do these things. You cannot simply, just think about the cooked rules for this. And by the way, they only give a fuck about this because Obama was the president. But think about the rules here. Are you saying that I can go and join a foreign military and I could be fighting as an enemy combatant out in the field, and you have to treat me like a citizen where only policing powers would come into effect? Of course not. You can do a military strike on you can be a U.S. citizen, it doesn't fucking matter. If you're participating in enemy terrorist or military activities, of course you could be targeted. That's crazy to say otherwise, and they would never say the same if this wasn't for a person under Barack Obama.
my life, when I was very anti-war, very lefty, still anti-war, and voted for Barack Obama, and then he murdered.
Are you in favor of the war in Iran?
Absolutely not. And Barack Obama killed a 16-year-old American citizen who was at a civilian restaurant in Yemen.
We can play
These are
this
all
game.
bad
We can
things.
be like, oh well, both parties are pretty bad, but
Indeed.
we have to. When they go to the ballot office, when I go to the ballot office as a voter, I have to actually put in a vote. I have to decide Democrat or Republican, or throw my vote away and vote for some third party.
Libertarian.
If I'm picking between those, and there's one candidate who just brought us into a war in Iran, is causing this massive conflict, tons of human suffering, that's foreign. That's foreign policy. Domestically, we see ICE attacks on American citizens. We see 56 people dying in ICE detention camps in just a singular year. You compare that to under Obama, the deporter-in-chief. Across 8 years, 52 people died. Way, way, way fewer. What we're seeing is dangerous conditions domestically. Way more people are dying, right? We have a lot of this qualitative discussion. You bring up a lot of anecdotes, but if you actually quantify the number of deaths that are occurring through these authoritarian mechanisms, it's very, very clear that when I vote, I'm choosing the lesser of two evils and voting Democrat.
Let's talk about a few structures of authoritarianism. We'll go with 2016, and you brought up Donald Trump subpoenaing these journalists.
What about Barack Obama?
We'll get broad on this.
When he kicked some people out of the press pool or whatever. I don't know the full story on this. Every single story I've ever looked up that Tim Pool's brought up has always been a lie, though. So I just assume that this is either greatly exaggerated or completely untrue. I feel like he's about to bring this one, but we'll see. I don't know. Or the IRS thing.
In 2016, Gizmodo published an article that Facebook had been suppressing news and information from conservative outlets. This is Gizmodo. They're a progressive outlet. In fact, I worked for the company that owned them, and I was a Bernie supporter in 2016. And so agreeing with this reporting and knowing the reporters behind it, I reported this. NBC News, all of these major institutions then claimed I was a right-wing conspiracy theorist.
Here's the thing.
Well, let me finish. For claiming that these things happened, that
he gets very personal with his stories. I was like, I don't know, what the fuck do you want to argue on this? I don't know your personal fucking story. You have to learn them all for him.
Reported on. Then what we learned is that under Obama, under Obama and under Biden, and don't get me wrong, this was under Trump as well, there was an active effort from the FBI. They were given a backdoor access to Twitter and Facebook to remove content that they thought objectionable to the government, and it was not done at the behest of Trump or for his benefit, but to the benefit of those who had been defending him in the press. So notably myself, who was calling out these censorship practices, I was falsely slandered and maligned by the media over this.
Thank you, yes.
These are institutions. Now, when you say that Donald Trump is mad at them, I agree, subpoenaing journalists depending on the issue can be bad. But to see that from Obama through Trump and into Biden, they were actively given access, this is a violation of the Fourth Amendment.
Tim,
it's a violation of the First Amendment.
We're missing something really important. We're lumping together all of these different types of sort of suppression of speech, but there's a fundamental difference. When we see left-leaning suppression of speech, often that happens from a bottom up, where you see some company taking an action.
No, I gave you a specific example of the Biden administration going to a major big tech company, giving them specific instructions to remove people who are saying naughty words.
We saw that in the context of COVID, where vaccination was really, really important.
That's authoritarianism.
Lives were
Close
saved.
to authoritarianism.
By vaccines. We have a really strong.
You can give me every reason for why you want to be an authoritarian. They always have a reason, and saving lives is always one of them.
There's a fundamental difference between suppressing free speech on, say, the war in Iran, where there's really bad stuff going on and we need to talk about it, and, say, spreading vaccine misinformation. In the U.S., we've had really long.
You have a moral opinion on the differences of importance, and that's fine.
Clear and present danger test has
but
been
we're
well
talking about authoritarianism has many different reasons. Did you think that all the tyrants of the world never gave a reason as to why they needed absolute authority? They always did, and they always do. And even today, it's the case whether it's Trump or anybody else. So when Biden's administration said, because COVID misinformation kills, we will silence you, that's authoritarianism. You can argue that you agree with it, but still is authoritarianism. How about we can use Cuomo in New York as an example? He shut down churches in violation of the First Amendment, and when he was sued and lost, he issued a secondary executive order changing the words to keep the churches closed. That is authoritarianism. And you right now defending it is my point. I have no problem saying Trump should not go after journalists, but you seem to have a problem saying the Democratic administrations should not be doing what they're doing.
Okay, pause.
Out.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Yeah.
Clap, clap, clap.
If you'd like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2,
Bing.
1.
Long distance from back.
You made it. I'm surprised you made it.
So one of the key parts about authoritarianism is influence over elections. And
Agreed.
we've seen that throughout the history of right-wing and left-wing, the right-wing side of this country has constantly been election deniers. Famously, Trump tried to fine votes in Georgia to win the 2020 election. And now we're seeing that they're claiming voter fraud in the city of Los Angeles mayor's race.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How many presidential elections in the last 20 years were denied by Democrats?
Were denied by Democrats?
Yeah, but
Unless this guy knows the specific laws, it's so frustrating when they bring this up. He's going to bring up the quote from Hillary Clinton, where she says she feels like something illegitimate in regards to the fact that Donald Trump was assisted by Putin to win, which he was. Everybody agrees with this. This isn't even controversial. We already, even Assange said this openly, that they wouldn't release bad information on Trump, but they did release bad information on Hillary. And then they bring up this, what was the other thing? Oh, they might bring up Bush v. Gore. But in both of these instances, the Democrat conceded the actual election. They conceded it instantly. This was not election denialism. This was an instantaneous concession. And they always pretend otherwise. And it's so fucking frustrating.
Mainstream members of Congress going on the floor, rejecting it.
None.
All of them.
do you see the Democratic Party trying to create an alternate slate of electors to actually try and overturn
that's a
a
different
democratically
argument.
elected?
Certainly a different argument, but no, that was in, I think that would have been 1960, but certainly not in the last 20 years. So
That's not
we can
true
completely agree
either.
Trump's efforts in 2020 were substantially different from, say, a handful of members of Congress and high-profile personalities coming out and saying the election is illegitimate. But I will say, while it is not particularly mainstream, there actively are groups across social media that believe the election was stolen. Just go on Threads for a few
Oh my
minutes.
God, Threads.
You will
You're
see
right.
tons of progressives arguing the election was stolen.
Tons of bots. You know, I'm really
Well, if
big
you don't
believer
think
in
they're
the
real
dead
people,
internet
that's
theory.
fine. I agree with the internet theory, actually.
So look,
But so then-
if
so
you're
then
talking about the
that
right versus
narrative
the
exists.
left, overall, again, we are talking about the overall picture here. Where is the majority of this coming from?
Well, let me ask you a question.
Pivot
You mentioned
time.
California. I want to ask you a question. Let's say there's an election that takes place, and a ballot comes in 3 days after that election. It's signed with a picture of Mickey Mouse, and it's hand dated. Do you think that is a real vote?
So guess what? In California, when you don't have a correct signature, you can do this thing called ballot hearing, where you take that ballot back to the voter and you say, is this really you? And you have to get that signature again.
But
in that
I
case,
asked you a
I
question.
don't think they registered with the Mickey Mouse signature.
Well, that's actually legal in California. In fact, the example given, I think, in Santa Barbara is a Kirby star image. Now, the challenge with this is, and that's why I'm not a fan of the fraud argument from Republicans. Just stop saying fraud. This is legal in California. In California, you can draw a picture of Kirby star in any manifestation. Now, the problem is signatures
Santa
are
Barbara
supposed to
Mickey
be
Mouse
unique to an
signature
individual.
claim traces to a rhetorical comment made by a local Republican official about in-person polling place sign-in sheets, not evidence that a ballot with a cartoon signature was accepted. The same Santa Barbara COP review ultimately found no voter fraud.
Because they would be falsifiable. Meaning, I've never seen your signature before. How can I match it? But if you sign up, register to vote with a picture of Kirby, anyone in the world can draw that picture of Kirby. So in California, the challenge that
Yeah, but
I
not
see,
everybody has the same name, the same social security.
no, but the point is, if a ballot is received by a homeless shelter, anyone can fill it out and draw a picture of Kirby Star.
There's a limited number of ballots that get sent to registered voters who are registered with the state.
Well, it's
and go through a
universal
pro-
mail-in
process.
voting. And for instance, there was a homeless shelter in Venice Beach that received 185 mail-in votes despite no one living there. And so,
Yes, because
again,
people that live on the street have addresses registered to shelters because
completely
they don't have
agree.
anywhere else to get mail.
And so what we've already seen is undercover video showing that activists do go to places like Skid Row and secure voter registration, where in one video, a man who's clearly not a woman
It's
says
so
his name is
crazy that we live in a time. I'm so glad that things are happening the way that. No, actually, I'm not, because you'd think you're going to win these arguments, but in actuality, they just become more retarded. In a time where Donald Trump controls every facet of government, you have all these conservative executive bodies all over the country. Trump is willing to charge Comey with incitement to violence. I don't actually know what the actual charge is, but they're willing to go after Comey for that 8647 thing, willing to fabricate mortgage fraud document charges against a whole handful of people. All of this stuff happens, but they haven't found a single person yet to charge over all of this rampant voter fraud. How the fuck is that possible? So much control, so much investigatory ability, so much everything. No, where is all the voter fraud? Where is it? Why haven't you charged anybody? Where the fuck is it?
Teresa, sure, he'll fill it out. Now, the problem is that man will fill this out under the name Teresa. He will sign, he'll put an X, a mark, which is legal in California. The other issue is that ballots can be received.
Teresa,
So
oh, yeah.
it gets complicated, but in California, if a ballot is received before the election, it can be hand dated. If it's received after the election, it has to be post dated. However, a ballot can only be rejected if two independent officials can prove beyond a reasonable doubt it has violated one of these tenets. So I do take issue with Republicans saying voter fraud all the time. It's received after the election, it has to be post-dated. However, a ballot can only be rejected if two independent officials can prove beyond a reasonable doubt
that's the standard, but okay.
it has violated one of these tenets. So I do take issue with Republicans saying voter fraud all the time when it's legal to do this in California. But I think if you go to a regular American and say, you ask him this question, and I'll ask you this question, how did Nithya Raman surpass Karen Bass, both Democrats, in mail-in votes only after Election Day?
Because young people vote later, and Nithya Raman won the young vote.
Well, the truth is that the DSA on their website advocates for ballot harvesting, which is legal, and they're allowed to do it.
He gave you an answer. He doesn't
More
like
power
it.
to them. It's very smart.
So
It's
do the
very
Republicans. They go to senior centers all across the country and
Okay,
get
we're going to
Republican
pause
votes.
here.
Bruh.
Voted out by the majority. Go ahead
Good talking
and
with you.
take your seat. If you'd like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2,
Ding.
1.
No contest. Likewise.
Elections, as you were talking about the other person before, I think are sacred. I think elections are sacred, and I believe that they are the most fundamental thing to American values and democracy. We have never seen, ever in American history, the attempt to subvert a free and fair election compared to how Donald Trump and his cronies did on
what
January
about-
6th. And I
Hold
think
on.
that it's absolutely ridiculous to claim that that is somehow comparable to the Biden administration talking to Facebook and certain social media platforms to ban Donald Trump, when social media platforms have been under attack by Donald Trump as well. We had in Florida how the right now chair of the RNC is now pursuing legal action against Facebook, Twitter, etc., for banning Donald Trump, which was a decision that they made without Biden's interference.
Well, I don't think arguing like a civil litigation is it's hard to argue civil litigation as a big political issue. If there's a contract violation committed by a company and Trump wants to sue them, certainly if you have the opinion you don't believe that
it's
you
the
believe
RNC,
there's malice
it's
there.
the current RNC chair.
Right.
Anybody can sue anybody.
Like regulatory
Anybody can
action
sue
against
anybody.
them for banning Donald Trump.
Right. So these are civil issues, and
Yes.
the challenge is I don't know the facts. You don't know the facts.
You don't think civil issues can be political?
They certainly can. But the point I'm making is that sometimes companies do bad things, and we need regulatory bodies to go after them. I'm in favor of that. Now the question is,
Like
are Republicans
all
bad for
voting
doing it?
issues like this are brought up civilly. You do understand that, right? Like all of the Trump lawsuits, if it's a person suing another person, those are all civil issues. There were no voter fraud indictments. You didn't have the DAs or the attorney generals or the federal attorney general. Like these were all civil cases. Like all of these voter claims or whatever were investigated on the civil side of things. What do you mean? Yeah, I don't know how you can just say, oh, it's civil, doesn't matter.
Honestly, I don't know because I don't know the underlying issues of the case. Maybe they are, maybe they're not.
So I'll bring up
know
another
about it.
instance.
Hell
In
yeah.
Massachusetts,
King.
for example, we just had 2 Republicans who were running for attorney general and lieutenant governor who were literally faking signatures on their ballots.
Lock 'em up.
Literal dead people.
Yeah, lock 'em
who,
up.
And if you look at the papers, they're the same
I hate
signature
those
down
people,
the
though.
ballot.
Yeah.
It's the same person, this
hate 'em. What do you want me
third
to
party
say?
that they hired, who was literally didn't have the same exact handwriting. And they tried, like,
Yeah,
so
lock
over
'em up.
thoughts of signatures across
Wait, wait.
Massachusetts
It's
were
bad.
then considered moot because
Considered
they were
what?
literal dead people
What do you say, moot? Yeah,
from
it's
all
terrible.
across the state.
I
And those
heard
2
it.
Republicans.
Right.
And you have, I mean, there are countless instances of Republicans, not just Donald Trump, trying to subvert American elections. And I think that is one of the most authoritarian things that anybody in this country can do,
I
is to
agree
subvert
completely.
the free and fair elections of the United States.
I think certainly that we have
Donald
a problem
Trump.
with 2 ancient political parties.
Both
I think the
sides,
real
baby.
big picture is here, and I'm not saying this to dismiss your anger over
yes.
what these Republicans did. You're certainly warranted to believe that. I agree. I think they should go to jail for that stuff. The problem is both political parties are playing this procedural game of trying to steal elections through the procedure instead of convincing people. The Republicans are redistricting in all of these different states to give
Sorry,
themselves.
January 6th was procedure?
I'm talking right now about both parties. And yeah, certainly January 6th was a riot, and it was very, very bad. We can agree on those things. I'm saying that both parties have these procedural efforts to increase their ability to win elections. Right now, Republicans are redistricting
I fundamentally disagree with that because Republicans were the ones that voted against a bill to ban gerrymandering federally in the United States. Republicans were the ones that continuously denied the fact that Joe Biden won the 2020 election free and fair. Democrats have not once, and they have been very consistent on this, on protecting American elections. It's in our name.
Democrats in
democracy.
2016 accused Donald Trump and his associates of
They
being
were.
Russian
They
assets and
tried.
trying to steal the
They
election
did.
on behalf of a foreign adversary, going so far to accuse the president of the
He
United States
probably
of
should
treason.
have been.
There was a multi-year investigation that cost tens of millions of dollars.
It didn't
that ended
cost
up being nothing.
anything. They made all the money back by the assets that were seized by Manafort, a really fucking weirdo dude that was working in an unofficial manner with Russian assets in Ukraine. And that investigation did produce a ton of good stuff, lots of credible indictments, lots of good convictions. So I don't know what any of that, all of that was wrong.
This is the president of the United States of treason. There was a multi-year investigation that cost tens of millions of dollars that ended up being nothing. That's election denial.
Oh
now, I don't think that's
God.
as bad as a bunch of people storming the Capitol. That's terrifying and substantially worse, physical violence. But yeah, I think if you look back at the history of this country going back decades, it would be a bit naive to say that the political parties aren't doing everything in their power to steal power from each other.
Again, so I mean, I don't want to pivot to Mueller, which in fact also.
But also,
Why
we
you
don't
should.
get
funny
caught
is
up in
that
being like Republicans
when
are bad because
Mueller
Republicans are
Mueller
bad.
passed away, rest in peace, an American hero.
he is.
Donald Trump literally said, "I'm glad he's dead,"
That's awful.
and he no longer can hurt innocent people.
I know.
So like again, another instance of Republicans, I would consider threats
Throw him
against
out there,
people
brother.
like that
Throw him
authoritarian.
out there. When he said that, I said it was disgusting. I mean, that's horrifying.
care that much, though.
But it doesn't change the fact that Bernie
also
Sanders
called Democrats evil,
Bernie
actually,
Sanders had the
for
election
the
taken away from
That's
him
a
illicitly. I
conversation.
think in 2016, I was fervent for Bernie. He was talking about securing borders because the Koch brothers, industrialists, wanted to bring in cheap labor. He was talking about getting better wages for the working class, supporting unions. And I said, this is the only guy who's been speaking to issues for the past 20 years that actually matter to working class American people.
Do you
And
still
what did
hold
the
those
Democratic
beliefs?
absolutely? And what did the Democrat Party do? They used super delis to make sure he could not win.
Okay, so first off, I'm a big fan of Bernie myself, so I guess it's something you could agree on there. I will say that if you as a supporter of Donald Trump, I find it kind of ironic that you believe in anything closely related to Bernie Sanders.
Well, it's not.
I'll give you a few examples.
9 million people who were Democrats
you
voted
said-
for Donald Trump in
you-
2016.
Yeah, and I also say 3 million, millions of people, I think it was a couple million in West Virginia, your state, that voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary and then had to switch to Donald Trump. I criticized my own party for that, and I think that was wrong. My point
Bernie
is
would've
not
won.
my point is not that the Democratic Party has never, ever used something or participated in saying bad faith in elections. My point is that we see consistently from Republicans, like consistently over
see
and
it from
over
both
again.
parties.
Again, I think that's like
both
the both
sides,
parties
bro.
saw that.
It's
You literally had Donald
just
Trump
true.
try to support
Pause.
the
Pause
fair
here.
election.
You just
voted out
got
by the majority?
We're talking with you, man.
both sides.
If you'd like to be the next debater, please head to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
So, yeah, you're not going to have me defending the Democratic
We know.
Party. I mean,
Let's
I
go.
feel like a lot of people, yeah,
And I don't want to defend Republicans
we're moving
either.
towards fascism on
Both
both
sides.
sides. I do want to bring up two unique things that Trump has done
I
that
love
no
both
one has
sides
ever done in
arguments.
United
Yes.
States history. So, two is suing a pollster for a poll he didn't like in the state of Idaho. And I think the biggest issue is the Israel issue.
Yeah.
So you have someone like Trump who, sold TikTok to Larry Ellison, and he also owns CBS News.
Oh yeah,
He
Paramount entirely.
Right. I think we both agree that's just not good, where you give someone a media apparatus, and a social media apparatus like TikTok. And then,
These things worry me for sure.
Okay.
I think where we're going to agree with like Democrat and Republicans is the issue of Israel, particularly.
Yes.
If we're talking about authoritarianism, this is why I say like don't
Man,
defend
if you hate
Republicans.
Tim's
like,
answers now, whew, man. That's all I got to say. Jeez.
some things I will, but the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, I feel like as an establishment, largely align with each other, and then there are these like lesser issues that divide. And I think when you look at TikTok, when you look, I'll tell you this: the TikTok was sold explicitly because of Israel.
Right.
So the story is this. Initially, Republicans were very mad about TikTok because it seemed to promote progressive content, progressive ideology. Republicans had been banned. People who supported Trump had been banned. So the Republicans come out and say, we got to ban TikTok. We can't do this. Democrats said no. But then something changed. After October 7th,
This is talking
we saw
about
the
Taylor
rise
Lorenz and a bunch of other slopulous people have seized on the idea that TikTok was the only place where you could finally truly hold Israel accountable. And the young people were finally getting the accurate information about how evil Israel was. And then they came and they shut down TikTok with the way that Israel used to lose to the Palestinians on propaganda. So they hated that.
kind of critical of Israel and supportive of Palestine. Yes. All of a sudden, the Democrats are like, you know what, now we agree with Republicans and we've got to ban TikTok. And then Trump comes out and says, no, we're not going to ban it, which he does not have the authority to do. The bill was passed. It was signed by the president. When Trump came in office, he was supposed to initiate that ban. But instead, what did he do? He sold it to a supporter of his to change the structure of that content to benefit his worldview, which does align largely with many establishment Democrats.
Yeah, I agree. And, you have him sanctioning the ICC, the prosecutors. I mean, this is the fascism we're talking about. So when you have, Russia and China that don't want to participate in the Western system, this is why. And then you have France, that's trying to get away from the tech companies because our own politicians in those that legislation, they put that they were that any country that has these databases will be forced to give the data to them.
I think if it is not a singular issue of Donald Trump. Like clearly, the Democratic Party joined in the cheering on of the banning of TikTok because of this content.
To be clear,
and so
I think that bill
just
was signed in Trump's first term, and I think Biden kind of just had to go through with it because it was already passed as a law. But then when Trump came on in his second term, he decided to stop enforcing it because he thought TikTok favored him more. So I don't know. Was Biden supposed to just undo the law? It's kind of a bullshit proposition, in my opinion. But
shows that we've got an authoritarian problem in this, elite circle of whatever the military-industrial complex or big banks and all of these, wealthy groups. They're interested in similar things.
No, yeah, I agree.
Okay,
but
we're gonna pause here. You've been voted out by the majority. Can we return to
Well,
the
we got a little bit. Nice meeting.
If you'd like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Hey,
nice to meet you.
Gotta say, I'm not a fan of either party.
Wow, so brave.
Same boat as you on that one.
Yeah.
The left embracing authoritarianism. Right now that they don't have the House, they don't have the Senate, they don't have the White House, they don't have a majority in the Supreme Court. If these guys are authoritarian, they're the crappiest authoritarians I've ever seen. They got to go back to authoritarian school and learn how to be authoritarians.
Well, or how to win. Right, losing, you can still be an authoritarian. Like Nazis lose power, but they're still Nazis.
Well, they're losing. They're losing at all levels. They're losing everywhere.
The Republicans crushed them, and I think
doesn't mean they're authoritarians, though.
Well, no, I mean you can be an authoritarian and lose, right?
Okay, so there's 3 actual elements that we need to talk about authoritarianism. One is dismantling of institutions. One is eliminating
that's why I hate
opponents.
the fucking this definition thing of what does it mean to be an authority? What does it mean to be a Nazi? What does it mean to be a fascist? Because it's then you get hung up on all these let's define all of these legs of this thing, and then technically everybody tries to dismantle institutions. Everybody tries, and it's
and suspending elections.
Those are very specific claims to some authoritarians.
I haven't seen those elements present within the left at all.
Donald Trump was arrested several times.
With exception of one. That was the eliminating opposition. I did see it, but
so
it was
when they arrested Donald Trump several times and then tried to get a constitution, they filed a suit to the Supreme Court to get Trump banned from being able to run.
I don't remember that, but I do remember,
you don't remember
some guy at a rally going,
the 14th Amendment
lock her up. Who was that person again? I forget. Oh, right, it was the same guy who weaponized the DOJ against all his political opponents, or deployed the National Guard to beat down on protesters, deployed ICE to terrorize families and tear apart communities, or launched the SAVE Act to try and just put voter suppression tactics in place so we could steal an election, imprison protesters for 10 years for marching down the streets.
I think
Proud was to stand back and stand by. I'm ready to mobilize you to launch another insurrection. Let's go,
if you'd like a soapbox,
who was that guy again? I forgot.
If you'd like a soapbox, we can set one up for you. But if you want to have a conversation, I'm sitting right here.
Go for it. I think the position is indefensible, but I'd love to hear your take. Go for it.
Well, you're allowed to not like Trump. He's done a lot of bad things. Thank you. Now, we were talking about the Democratic Party, the things they've done, and I think, and I'm not saying this mercifully, but I think there's many things that you're ignorant of the Democratic Party has done. You talk about suppression of their political opponent. Well, yeah, they sued so that Trump could not run for office. They tried to claim he was an insurrectionist. He was ineligible. He was arrested several times. They arrested his lawyers. Now, by all means, every authoritarian makes the argument they're justified in their use of authoritarian tactics to remove their political opponents. That doesn't change the idea, or I should say the philosophy behind what they're doing. So if you want to accuse Jenna Ellis, for instance, of doing something wrong because she drafted a letter arguing on Trump's behalf, that's authoritarianism. By all means, you can say she was wrong to do it, she's a criminal, but we are seeing when you start going after people's lawyers, by all means, tell me you think she's a criminal and deserves it, and I will tell you the people of this country now stand in fear that Democrats are going to arrest them if they engage in illegal practices.
We're going to pause here. We are out of time.
My next surrounded claim is that the United States is tracking towards a civil war.
How do they keep losing these mics? They're having to pick up on background mics. What's going on?
1.
Welcome back.
You miss me? So, listen, I think that we are getting closer towards a peak of
What the fuck was that?
civil unrest in this country, and in all honesty, I'm going to blame people like you. This entire time, you've been trying to blur the line between what separates you and a person like me and everybody in the circle. Okay. The truth is you don't agree. On your show, you have 5 white supremacists around you and 1 liberal lawyer talking about why we should protect the Constitution. On Twitter, you're mentioning the Civil War and why we need to have a civil war 24/7. No, you've said civil war numerous times. Slates of screenshots over the last 4 years alone.
Saying that
I'm not
there will
talking
be
about shooting
one
ivermectin up your ass,
I've never
all the time.
I've never advocated for ivermectin. You have literally no idea what you're talking about. You've not done any research, and you've never used Google. I've never advocated for ivermectin, not once.
He's not going to stop talking. You're going to waste
I've never used it. I've never used ivermectin. I said no. You shouldn't use it.
I'm going to get to the
point here. So if you want to make things up,
are you an intellectual or are you too much of a child?
You want to just waste time, then we can waste time. But if you have an actual argument, so if you agree with me on the issue, but you don't like me, then we can agree.
No, I think you're responsible. I think you're responsible.
You can get
an individual like your man.
If you agree,
you just don't want to finish. You know where I'm going to go with this.
Do you agree?
You so mistrust the United States institutions.
You're allowed to blame me all you want, and then we can agree and you can leave.
You just want to run away from the conversation?
Are you here to dispute my claim or agree with it?
I think you're responsible.
That's fantastic. Thank you and have a nice day.
Oh, you don't want to hear why you're responsible?
It doesn't matter because you're here to dispute my claims, right? Not
it doesn't matter. You don't. All of a sudden you want to stick to the definition of your claims when it comes to just about everything.
Are you supposed to agree with me and sit here and agree with me?
You're not going to stop talking, are you?
Are you going to sit here and agree with me?
You control yourself. You're like 50 years old.
Calm down. Agree with me?
Calm down.
You come down.
I don't agree with you. I disagree with you on everything.
You make fake claims.
Of course I do. If anybody's doing something that they don't actually believe in, it's you because you're getting paid by the country.
In fact, I argued with Joe Rogan on his show. I advocated on Joe Rogan's show against ivermectin.
David, can you please address the claim?
I think America is getting closer to civil war, and it's all because of people like Tim Pool.
Thank you for agreeing with me. Have a nice day.
You're a coward, bro.
Well, if you don't agree with me, I don't know why you're here. Also, I would recommend doing research before you come to a place like this.
If you'd like to be the next debater, please head to the chair.
What is this claim?
3,
I think America
2,
is tracking
1.
towards a civil war. What is? I don't understand what. What a weird claim.
Man.
Good to see you again.
Great to see you again.
Yeah.
First time we talked about this was in 2019, so it's been quite a while.
I think it was
since
before
you've
that.
been calling for civil war.
I've never called for civil war.
Or not calling for. I'm sorry. Said that we're on the brink of civil war.
And what was the citation?
Oh my God!
I would love you.
It was the Atlantic, and it was a journalist who interviewed several national security experts who said that there is a range of opinions in the national security space that the U.S. is trending towards a civil war. Notably, that when you cite people like Stephen Marsh, journalist, as well as Barbara F. Walter, former CIA, the U.S. academics describe the period that we're in as civil strife, meaning there's a criteria of death that has occurred for political reasons over the past year or years, for which the next phase would be civil war. However, we'll make my point, tracking towards it, I've not said that it will happen, although there have been many people who have said that we are in a cold civil war or some kind of cultural civil war. I always caveat because I don't actually have a strong prediction.
First of all, you do have strong prediction if you've been saying this since 2019. There's 42.
Reading articles about
people can look this up. There's 42 of your titles that have the word civil war in it with big fonts on the front.
They sure do.
So why is that? It's sensationalist. It's easy to get clicks on that. There's a reason why you say it because it's very profitable for your business.
Not necessarily. But we have 1,600 episodes of just IRL.
There comes a point where people stop taking your predictions seriously.
Are you going to make an argument or are you mad at me?
I'm not mad at you.
Okay, then let's make an argument about whether or not we are tracking. No. If you're making an argument, you don't like my thumbnails, or you say my name over and over again.
I'm saying that you say bullshit in order to get money.
Let me ask you a
question.
Let me ask you a question you can't
I will
answer.
agree with you that there's increased polarization. I would attribute a lot of that to people being specifically online.
Let me ask.
There's a lot less interaction with people that are in different camps.
Let me ask you a question.
You're going to sit here and tell me that we're way more polarized than fucking Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr, who shot each other with their disagreements. You're going to tell me that Andrew Jackson, who's the sitting president,
do you want to have a conversation, or are you going to be angry? Why was Aaron Danielson shot in the chest twice?
Sorry?
Why was Aaron Danielson shot in the chest?
I'm not
Because
disagreeing that political
because he was a
violence.
mRNA
When
vaccine.
you say Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr, but then when I ask you a question about an assassination, you defer.
You can say that
Let me
there's
ask you a
a civil
question.
war every fucking year and it doesn't happen. And
I
you're gonna
never
say
said
it just
there
hasn't
was.
happened yet.
Let me ask you a
Or if
question.
it does happen, you say, see, I've had it all
Let me
along.
ask you a
You were
question.
the same thing as like the
Let me-
Christian
Jesus
rapture people
Christ.
who say that the rapture's coming every fucking year.
Are
and
you-
it doesn't happen.
Do you want a
It's like,
soapbox?
oh,
Do you want me to
Did
get
they
you a
like
soapbox?
get together
I
and
can leave.
decide
You want me-
like we're just gonna fucking try to rattle them, I guess, or jeez.
It's
want me to
really
go?
easy to
You want
like,
me
do
to
what you do.
You want me to
It's
leave?
really easy to do what you do. Like you literally just say, Civil
Wait,
War is
what?
happening next year. Civil War is happening next year. It's coming. Make sure you subscribe to Timcast. Continue to watch my videos, please. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. It's easy to do what you do, bro.
What? Why?
Nobody's actually had a debate yet. Are we going to actually talk about whether it will or will not happen? I mean, sounds like it's gonna.
All right. If you'd like to be the next debater, please head to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome. Nice to meet you. Hey, nice to meet you.
I think we are being constantly fueled by the people that are already in charge, that are up on top, that are already wealthy, and that already have power over the entire government. Donald Trump has 8 billionaires in his administration, including himself. You see his sons profiting, you see his friends profiting, you see everyone in close ties with him profiting. They're not going to give up this power. I don't think we're on the verge of a civil war. I think we're due for a revolution. And I hope that's peaceful. I hope that's not violent. I hope we change.
This is fantastic. No, I appreciate this. Can I ask you some questions?
Yeah.
Do you believe that Donald, and I'm not trying to accuse you of believing this, but do you think that Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do.
Do you think that there are Nazis in his administration?
In his administration, few. Yeah.
Do you think that I mean, how do you feel about them using the military to go after undocumented migrants in this country?
I think it is an unnecessary use of force.
All
when
of
we
those
should be
things
targeting
describe
violent
Barack
criminals
Hussein
that have come into
Obama.
this country
Do
illegally.
it. Do it.
That
Say
should
it.
be the sole
He's gonna do
focus.
it.
When 70% of detainees in ICE custody do not have a criminal conviction,
how do you
we're
feel?
wasting resources and trying to use a show of militaristic power, which is a huge proponent of fascism.
How do you feel about the death of Rene Good and Alex Preddy?
Unjustified.
Are you going to do anything about it?
I'm going to rally everyone here.
Is rallying going to stop murder?
I don't do this.
Is rallying going to stop the killing
I
of people?
annoy my few hundred friends and followers on my Instagram post by reposting news stories.
Do you think
and adding my
rallying will
comments to
stop
it.
the killing of people
What
by
I'm
ICE?
doing here now is trying to show people that they need to speak up, that we're not against each other right and left.
Do you believe speaking up will stop ICE from killing people?
I think speaking up will get us to the right process of voting people in the midterms and in the next election so that we can make changes the constitutional way.
How many people do you think will die between now and then?
Too many. There's already been too many people that have died.
So again, this is largely based off. I don't know if it's.
So wait, are you
your
trying to
views.
incite a civil war?
No.
Do you want a civil war?
I'm asking
so
you
what
if
do
you
want,
actually
what do you
believe-
want to do against ICE?
I like ICE.
And you're happy that they've
If you've seen Tim Pool, you would know. Does anybody know what quote I'm thinking of right now? Oof, there's a crazy quote by him. Anybody know? It's in my brain. My boot. That's right. Do you remember that? That was a crazy. He was like, people are like, they call me a bootlicker, or they say that you're under the boot. Yeah, it's because it's my boot. It's my boot. That's crazy. That was a crazy statement.
First of all, when these people come out and go, Tim's a bootlicker for defending us, I'm like, no, you misunderstand. It's my boots. It's mine. I voted for them. I'm wearing the boot. I'm stomping on the ground. I ain't licking anybody. I'm clapping for these people that I said, please go out and enforce the law. And anybody else who's cheering for it, who voted for it too, we're all wearing the boots. You're the one crying. You're the one saying, you're coming. First of all,
sociopathic, but you know.
Okay, so what are you going to do?
I'm going to vote for Trump again.
He's the one that's allowing guys to kill
To
people.
be fair,
He's the one
I'm going to
not
vote for
taking-
JD Vance.
As I just said, he's the one not taking accountability.
See, I think there's a distinction here. For one, the claim is meant to be like nonpartisan, but I have, of course, my partisan views.
Of course.
I like the Trump administration, though they've done a lot of bad things.
And that's fine.
And we can call it those bad things, but I'm going to continue to support it. My point largely is either the progressives will stand up against what they perceive as fascism, or fascism takes over.
Which they are
now,
doing.
by all
We
means,
just had
if
the
you're-
largest protest in the history of the United States. No peace
if your
protest.
argument
We're going to
is
pause here. Thank you. You've been
Nice
voted out by the
talking.
majority. If you'd like to be the next debater, please head to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so the whole thing about civil war is that I do think that you need some sort of leadership, that is being financially disenfranchised to incentivize a civil war. And we don't really have any strong progressive leaders in office currently that are being meaningfully financially disenfranchised the way slavers were. So
But
I
you,
think
you,
that
you don't. That's the challenge. I think.
Yes, that is absolutely- yes, that
you
is
don't.
the-
If you take a look at civil wars throughout history, we can use the Syrian civil war as an example. It started with a dozen or so disparate factions, largely of locals and various ideologies that ultimately coalesced around one group, either the Free Syrian Army, but then ultimately got taken over.
Right, sure,
Civil
but the
wars
thing
can
is
be
that, like-
fomented through small factions that bubble up.
Certainly, but I think that you are vastly overestimating the, kind of militant capacity of the American left. Like, we truly do not have like a far left in the US that would be willing to take up arms. It is so small. Furthermore, I do think that technology-wise, it's not, it's not an even battle anymore. Like, the military, the US military, which is largely conservative, and currently, Trump is in charge of them, the technology that they have to track, surveil, to remotely kill people would be absurd. I mean, I guess we could do some sort of guerrilla warfare, but this is American territory. It wouldn't go down like Vietnam, Like, we know where we are, we know where we're going.
This is a fantastic point, by the way, and this gets into what's known as the generations of warfare.
Okay.
So the earliest generation of warfare, obviously, is a guy punching a guy. As we got into, the 1700s, well, maybe even before then, you get field battles and drums and trumpets, and they refer to this largely as like third generation. Fourth generation is what they refer to as insurgency, terror, guerrilla warfare tactics, which we saw famously people bring up during the American Revolution. Many people refer to the period we're now in as fifth generational warfare. And the question is, what is the purpose of conflict? And it's to typically, not always, but to gain control of resources or a political group. Usually it's to gain control of something. And it could be for ideological reasons or economic reasons.
I never thought about it that way. Like, civil war is to gain control of something. That's a super fascinating perspective. Okay.
What I'm saying now, what I would say, maybe we're not going to have what's called a hot civil war, but remain cold is the use of information technology for the purpose of controlling populations, like you've described. So in the broader picture, I would argue that what we are seeing now with TikTok and Instagram may actually stop kinetic conflict, which would be people shooting each other.
Yes.
And we may actually just end up with people being brainwashed and, waving Israeli flags or something.
Well, I mean, we're already kind of there. I mean, like, Peter Thiel and Elon Musk are, the two most powerful tech dudes, and even Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos to some degree. They're in Trump's pocket, or maybe Trump is in theirs. And there's just, online, there really isn't a way for the left to meaningfully take control, not in a real sense. I think that, yes, the country will continue to get polarized, but will we have
Jesus
a civil war?
Christ.
No.
Pause here.
What?
Thank you. You've been voted out by
Okay.
the
Thank you.
All right, if you'd like to be the next debater, please head to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Hello. When January 6th happened, I actually thought we were headed towards a civil war then. I thought, oh my God, this is really bad.
It's terrifying.
And so much so that what ended up happening is that gun sales increased predominantly on the left because they were so afraid of what was going to happen. And we had been seeing documentaries and news networks talking about the far right extremists who were already training with like AR-15s and things like that were attempting to potentially start a coup. And so if we were talking back then, I would actually agree with you. The reason I disagree with you now is because
this is such a
don't
dog shit
have
claim. The United States is tracking towards a civil war. I don't even know why. I wonder if he fought to get that one, because it just seems like a dog shit claim.
a faction of the left that is nearly as violently motivated as the right is. So if we were to talk about a hypothetical civil war, then I would argue the far right would start it, specifically because of what you just said. You said that you would like to re-elect Trump, that you would vote for him for a third time. But you didn't say Vance, you said Trump, right?
Well, I corrected it.
And I think that
Rubio, maybe.
goes down to the ideology of, again, your argument around the Constitution. There is a faction of MAGA that wants him to run again and skirt the Constitution so that MAGA can stay in power. I think in a hypothetical, that would lead towards a civil war.
I agree.
And so, okay, but people like yourself who continue to spew this type of rhetoric of, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? I think you want it to happen.
I think you're exaggerating the things that I've said about it. I think that last conversation was absolutely fantastic.
I think everything that you talked about is online, and people
So
can just look it up.
I've interviewed national security experts to ask them if they think this is going to happen. When you have one gentleman saying, yes, and it's my fault, he doesn't have to like me. You don't have to like my opinions or what I do. But I think when you also say that when MAGA wants to elect Trump for a third time, you are correct, they do. And I also agree this is going to create an untenable situation for the country that I don't believe progressives or Democrats will accept. I don't see Trump and his base backing down, and I don't see the left, liberals, Democrats, or otherwise agreeing to back down. It's a simple question. Would anyone in this room sit back as Trump seized a third term in power? I don't think they would do it.
Yeah.
So you can have a fascist take over a revolution, or you can have a civil war if this is the case. And I hope to God it's not. Because you know what I prefer? I prefer to watch the soccer match and have some chicken wings. I don't want to deal with conflict crisis. I don't like having to live in. I have multiple bodyguards with me today. I have to have people stand outside my house because we got.
Are you scared of the progressives in here?
Not scared of anybody in here. Actually, I think you guys have been absolutely lovely. But there are lunatics. In December of last year, someone drove by my property and opened fire on
This
our
is a lie,
buildings.
by the way, 100%. I remember when he tried to make this big drama at the time, never posted a single photo ever of any gunshots. Or if he did, it was later on and I didn't see it. Does anybody know? Did he ever actually post proof of this happening? I never saw any proof of this, and it's a pretty grand claim.
You're going to blame that on the left, too?
It was a left-aligned individual.
How could you
who did it.
possibly know that?
but I mean, I'm not blaming you guys for doing it. And I certainly would acknowledge that there are people on the right who engage in violence all the same. What I'm saying is I don't want you to be in fear of your life. I don't want to be in fear in my life. I prefer this. You guys have been absolutely awesome. We disagree. I mean, that guy really hates me, but I don't want him hurt or anything like that. I don't want to live in a country where people are attacking each other without trying to understand each other.
Right, but the rhetoric that you're spewing is leading towards that. You want Trump again. Which means the rhetoric that you're spewing online, the political commentary that you're spewing online, is teasing it.
I don't want
it's
Donald Trump.
Will they? Won't they? Will they? Won't they?
I don't want Donald
Guys,
Trump for a third term.
Go
but
and have a civil war.
I would prefer, J.D. Vance, maybe Rubio, but
that's still MAGA.
And indeed, and understand that Trump won the plurality of the vote in 2024, and he has a large support base, despite his polls being very low. He does, and we'll see what happens with the Republican Party in 26 and 28. But you can't just wish away the existence of another political faction with a polarized worldview compared to yours. I do not see a reality where Republicans accept the worldview of the progressives who are gaining ground in multiple places, namely in New York. And I don't see the progressives accepting the Trump worldview as you've described it.
And the reason that we're not going to accept it is because people like you.
And the reason we don't accept it is people like you.
We're going to pause here. If you'd like to be the next debater, please head to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Jeremiah. Okay, so we know that the USA is very resilient, right? We've weathered so much. So we've stayed intact, and we weathered 1968 riots, McCarthyism, what else? Civil rights era.
Civil War.
So, but the thing is, we've stayed intact, right? So my thing is that we can have polarizing views, right? But nothing that we're dealing with right now is as intense as anything that I've just mentioned, and none of those things led to a civil war. So unless the right plans to enslave the left, how are we going to have a civil war?
So one example that I often say, which I don't know, that a lot of this is probabilistic. I like to use Colorado as an example. Okay. Colorado.
Well, unless you're an actual, fortune teller, of course everything is probabilistic. What no one can know for sure. What a weird. Sometimes people just say these triggers me.
Allows for abortion up to the point of birth, the woman's discretion, but Oklahoma bans it, and they share a border. Okay. So you have a potential for conflict in that regard, because if a woman is with a man and she's 7 or 8 months pregnant and she decides to get an abortion in Colorado where it's legal, the state will try to stop her. We have already had an instance where, I'm not sure, it was a southern state, it might have been Mississippi or Alabama, where they attempted to charge a woman with conspiracy to commit abortion by fleeing the state. And so the issue that arises is at the ground level when a man says, you are taking my child to be murdered, and the woman says, no, it's a fetus, I'm getting an abortion. And this results in people on the ground traveling between jurisdictions with different laws, which creates a problem for Colorado and a problem for Oklahoma, which probably don't want to fight.
So, but what I'm saying is that if you're saying the nation
states' rights, God damn it.
Fight. We don't even see internal fights within the states, like separate states. I would think that we would see that first before we'd see the nation fight.
Well, we saw in Texas when the Biden administration deployed federal police, and the Texas National Guard came, and they were actually in dispute over the concertina wire on the border, because Texas doesn't have the constitutional authority to deport. They sent out their state National Guard in defiance
and we
of the
saw
federal
that overreach here in California when Trump did that overreaching.
Right, sending the Marines.
But guess what? But the thing is, military hasn't defected.
The claim is that we are tracking towards one, and I think that's an academic claim.
Okay,
but it's also possible we have a revolution.
What do you mean by tracking? Tracking like in 100 years?
No. Tracking means that what we have seen over the past 10 years historically runs parallel to other stories that have culminated in civil war, but don't always. So that's why academics say today's period in the United States is called civil strife.
Okay, we're going to pause
civil rights
there.
here was civil strife as well.
We're going to pause here. You've been voted out the majority. If you'd like to be the next debater, please head to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome. Hi. Nice jacket.
Hi, thank you. When you say that the U.S. is heading towards a civil war, I fundamentally disagree with this claim, because I think that for any country to go through civil war, 3 key things need to happen. The first is geographic fracture. The second is the military defecting. And the third is institutional collapse, none of which we see in the United States.
Well, let's address the claim number 1. We actually have seen massive internal migration from blue states to red states and red states to blue states.
That's not at all what he's talking about. I don't know if the states so much as disagree with each other so much as the geography is along city versus rural lines, which I don't know how that would cleanly separate.
Geographic hyperpolarization absolutely is happening.
I didn't say polarization. I said geographic fracture. There are plenty of blue cities in red states.
Right.
So where's the fracture? Has any state tried to secede?
There have been instances of states trying to secede from themselves.
What? Not really, no.
Which states have tried to secede? Northern California is trying to secede. You've got Eastern Oregon trying to secede.
No.
You've got a district in Northern Colorado.
What I mean secede is not, are people wanting it to happen? Is there a little bit of a movement going on? Is there mass voting for a state to secede? No, there's not.
The state of Jefferson, are you familiar?
No, there's not.
And Greater Idaho.
Did it happen?
It
doesn't happen.
I believe we had two counties. Hold on. If you don't know this, don't just say you don't. Eastern Oregon had 2 counties voting to secede from the state to join Idaho.
Did it happen?
It did not.
It does not happen, no, because
but whether it did
we're
not happen is
extremely
the
polarized in
argument.
this country.
Are people trying to make it happen?
We're extremely polarized in this country,
Maryland
but there's no geographic fracture.
Western Maryland voted to join West Virginia.
People tried. It doesn't happen.
I understand. I think a lot of people look at American history and then believe all civil wars happen in this context. But in fact, the United States is unique in this regard, in that we were positioned for civil war because you had state jurisdictions with great authority that were in defiance of the federal government.
You use this rhetoric a lot, and it's very, very dangerous to use this rhetoric because it gets people up in arms and gets people rallied up. This kind of rhetoric is the same kind of rhetoric that Donald Trump uses to rally up right-wing conservatives. This is so dangerous that there are only two possibilities for why somebody would say this. Either they're blatantly exaggerating and grifting for money, or they genuinely believe what they say and they don't know, and they don't give their audience the 20 seconds of respect on Google it would take to learn otherwise. The U.S. is not heading towards a civil war.
There's clearly
that's
more
that's
than
not what's happening.
There's clearly more than two reasons why someone would say these things.
No, there's not. Like I said,
and that's being intentionally derisive and not informing anybody.
It's the truth because we're not heading towards a civil war.
He said it. He said we're not heading towards a civil war. What do you want me to say?
All right. Well, it's good talking to you.
Nice to meet you.
You seem pretty confident too. I don't know, man. I feel pretty good about it now.
My final surrounded claim is that the Constitution effectively does not exist
What
anymore.
are these claims? I feel like every time I've been on these shows, they usually try to get you to ground your claims out pretty concretely in order to facilitate good discussions. Like if you have weaker claims or claims that are like divisive enough, they'll like say, can we rephrase this or can we do this? Or I'm surprised they're letting these are very like, when I say weak claims, they're just like, I don't know where you get a ton of discussion or disagreement out of it. They're very nebulous.
If you'd like to be the first debater, please head to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Going well.
So, what is the purpose of the claim?
So the first question is, what is a constitution? A constitution, it actually refers to what constitutes a body politic. As of right now, I'd make the argument that first, what is known to most people, the interpretation of the Constitution dramatically has changed over the past several hundred years, not just with amendments, but with the language itself, though. Many people might argue they're originalists, some might say they're textualists. It doesn't even matter if they claim those things because their view of the Constitution has changed. As of today, there's actually two distinct large body politics, if that's the way you say it, and they do not agree on the interpretation of the Constitution. Thus, we are seeing claims the Supreme Court is no longer legitimate. We've seen that for some time now. We see Republicans angry with Amy Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh over their rulings, and we are now hearing arguments that politicians should just ignore the Constitution outright, or the Supreme Court, I'm sorry, in this capacity, even though this would violate the Constitution.
But that wouldn't necessarily work because if the Founding Fathers were creating the document, they knew that this was going to continuously progress because they believe in the modernization of the United States that was going to continuously go forward. That's why you had Lincoln making the Reconstruction era amendments and even the Progressive era amendments, like the 16th Amendment with the income tax, the 17th Amendment.
We're not arguing amendments.
But what I'm saying is that the Constitution has always been able to progress and change. If you're looking for the issues when it comes to the Supreme Court and what everybody else believes, that happens on the left and on the right. Everyone has the disagreements when it comes to the Supreme Court. But the problem is when you look at the Trump administration, what they're currently doing right now is making executive orders saying that they're going to ask questions about the 14th Amendment, but the reality is that he wanted to change the first section of the 14th Amendment to his own.
Is anyone stopping him?
The Supreme Court did, actually. Not only did the Supreme Court stop them, initially, that's what he was promised, he was hoping did not have happen. That's why he was sitting in April with the Supreme Court, trying to be basically the muscle of the executive and the judicial.
So Trump hasn't stopped. In fact, they're preparing another executive order under the same line that was just rejected, targeting territories.
But then you would agree with that the fault then would be coming from the political right then in this case, because when
But it's not a question of fault. It's a question of we are not seeing. My point largely is there is a left and there's a right in this country that are so distinct. Neither views the Constitution as being upheld.
But that's not necessarily true.
This guy's head is like, he kind of looks like a Final Fantasy villain. It's kind of crazy. Jesus.
It is true.
Well, I'll explain to you as the reason as to why.
This one, the wavy thing here. Damn.
It's not
you think
true.
Trump's upholding the Constitution?
I don't think he's upholding the Constitution, but I know for a fact that the left has been, or the Democrats have been actually holding up the Constitution a lot more. If you look at, for example, with Bush,
do you think Republicans believe the Democrats are upholding the Constitution?
Do I think that the Republicans are holding it?
Do Republicans in this country believe Democrats are holding true to the Constitution?
Of course they don't, but that's because
that's the point.
But
There is no unified body politic that
that is
operates under the US
opinion based.
Constitution.
That's specifically opinion based. When you look at when you look at different members, different presidential terms, you look at Trump. He's trying to take it down with the 14th Amendment through executive orders. The AUMF under Bush, he took away the ability for the Congress to actually declare war with that simple document because of September 11th. I haven't seen Obama do that. I haven't seen Biden try and do that whatsoever, especially when it comes to the past 20 years. The reason as to why we're in those situations is because of these two presidents. Now, what my argument is that while they may say, individuals may say this, what we're seeing is actual executive powers, actual legislative powers,
not the argument.
actual judicial powers on the right that are specifically doing this.
Good
job, dude. You almost got to say a sentence, but they got you.
If you'd like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
How's it going? Nice to meet you.
An issue I kind of take with your interpretation of the Constitution is that you're kind of like taking this originalist approach to the Constitution and that every single word in the Constitution should be taken as literal.
No, I'm not.
So what do you mean essentially by like?
So the Founding Fathers, it was the split between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. There was an argument as to whether we should have an unwritten Constitution or a written Constitution. There was a fear that with an unwritten Constitution it would evolve too dramatically and you'd end up with tyranny. So one faction says, hey guys, write it down. In fact, they wanted not just a Constitution, they wanted a Bill of Rights. So the argument is fundamentally a Constitution is what constitutes the body politic. When you have a group of people that are largely morally aligned, they all basically agree, then you have a Constitution. We are seeing an increase in geographic polarization. This is resulting in the Congress becoming equally polarized with radically different views of what the Constitution actually means.
So our Congress is very, very, very centered, right? Our Congress is very much in the political center. So to say that they're these radical figures, I think it's strikingly ironic.
Well, no, they're polarized, right? They vote on party line almost all the time, even when it doesn't make sense. And if you don't, Trump gets you removed from office like Massey. So that's polarization, right? So they're going to vote for the agenda of the right or the agenda of the left. And I think the easiest way to explain it is the amendments are the easiest way to approach this in understanding that the Constitution being largely, in my view, non-existent is the suppression of speech that we saw from Democratic Party administration officials. So that violates the First Amendment.
You have to admit, though, like the First Amendment doesn't mean that you can say whatever you want. Like
it certainly means you can express political opinions,
but it has continually, like our judges and our Supreme Court has continually ruled that there are limitations on free speech.
I agree.
I can't scream that there's a fire in a movie.
Yes,
theater,
you can. Brandenburg v. Ohio, you're wrong.
Like there.
Brandenburg v. Ohio. The Brandenburg test has two parts. The first part is whether or not it's reasonable to expect some type of violent thing will occur, and then whether or not you're commanding, I think, some particular violent thing to occur. So, like, if I were to tell a bunch of my gamer friends, like, we need to go blow up Palestine, even though I'm, like, commanding a violent action, I don't think that that's actually going to occur because I'm just talking to my gamer friends. But if I'm talking to a crowd or whatever, I don't know if shouting fire in a crowded theater, I don't know if that's, like, incitement crime. But if it was considered incitement, it would certainly meet the Brandenburg threshold. I don't know. Yeah, there might be, like, there's this thing like a disorderly conduct or something. But I don't know why he just said, like, Brandenburg v. Ohio. I don't know what that case, I don't think, had anything to do with shouting fire at a crowded theater. So I don't know what.
Needs to be
a Supreme Court precedent already said you can't scream fire.
There has to be a threat of imminent
Thank
danger.
you.
That's not,
You've
yes,
been voted
that's
up by
true.
the majority.
Next meeting.
If you'd like to be the next debater, please head to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back. Shake your hand again.
All right. You're telling me that the Constitution effectively doesn't exist, right?
Yes.
Not that it's necessarily like low quality, but that it like effectively just does not exist at all.
Well, let's not be super extreme. What I mean is, there's obviously a document. We know what it is. We use it for certain guiding principles as to the power that our parties want.
My specific argument here is that the Constitution, whether or not it's being handled in like exactly the right way, it does exist. It's an important matter. Then great. The thing is, I don't know what your personal views is. My job here is just to dispute your claim. The claim is that it effectively does not exist. My argument is, insofar as we're all talking about the Constitution, we have a court flawed or
is
not,
the Fourth Amendment
but a
being
court
upheld?
that reviews the Constitution.
Question: Is the Fourth Amendment being upheld?
I'm not a constitutional scholar. I don't know, but there's active debate about it.
The answer is that it's not. And we've had a serious issue with flock cameras, for instance. One video I just watched where a guy got pulled over wrongly and arrested because a flock camera flagged his car down. Now, when the police show up at your house and accuse you of a crime with fake evidence and you get arrested, that is a violation of your rights. Now, certainly we can argue that because of the Fourth Amendment, you can go and dispute it in court, but you could dispute it in court with or without the Fourth Amendment.
I'm absolutely against those like flock cameras. But again, that's not the point of this topic. When we're talking about does the Constitution exist, insofar as there's still a court review system.
Let's not argument it. Sometimes there's not. A good example is the case of Andrew Arnheimer, where he was arrested in Georgia and brought to New Jersey in violation of his constitutional rights and put in prison because of this, which ultimately resulted in him getting out. So I understand there is a Constitution. I know there's a physical piece of paper, and I know that it does work, but I'm saying effectively, because what I'm saying is it has become so disputed and so ignored in most capacities that we may as people are not abiding by it. The Democrats don't believe Republicans are. Republicans don't believe Democrats are. That's my point.
So
that
brave.
It is an
We're gonna
ineffective.
pause here. Thank you. You've been voted out by the majority.
Man, they voted out fast here.
All right, if you'd like to be the next debater, please head to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
How's it going? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Luke. What is the point of telling a bunch of different progressives that a bunch of things that we all agree with?
I don't know.
What's your prompt?
What is the point of that? You're sitting within this pocket of safe moderation, right?
Yep.
You are a former Bernie bro, right?
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah, I agree with you. I was there when the bird landed on the podium in Portland. I was fucking
was
there,
amazing,
man.
huh?
I completely agree. And we both probably got disenfranchised by our party, right?
I didn't vote for anybody in 2016. Yeah.
Sure, hell yeah, you did your part then. Right? So my question is, what is the point of arguing this with a bunch of people who agree with you? Shouldn't you be surrounded by a bunch of people that you so-called condemn?
I guess it's a production question. Yeah, that's it. I mean, I don't know what you to say. I have claims, and if we agree, I guess we can all smile and shake hands.
But like, this is a direct question to you. Like, why sit in this pocket of moderation if you so clearly condemn everything that's going on the right? A group that is so clearly eroding the Constitution. Why are you sitting here arguing with people that agree with you?
Is your argument that I should be a progressive or a liberal because I don't like what's happening in the Constitution?
No, I think you should be a little bit louder about the things that you actually believe instead of this like safe beanie wearing moderate.
Well, what does that mean?
Well, I condemn everything that the right has done.
I didn't say I condemn everything the right has done. Let's put it like this. When I look at the option in 2020 between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, I was actually supporting Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang. And the Democratic Party does what the Democratic Party does. So I said, okay, well, who's the guy who's going to have my back more than them? These people I view as authoritarian bad for a bunch of different reasons. And Trump's first term, it was a nightmare what they were doing. And Donald Trump put out his second term agenda, and I said, you know what? There's a bunch of these things I agree with, and the Democratic Party I find to be it is untenable what they have done.
Tim, like, you are a smart guy. I'm not going to sit here and call you dumb and shake my head at you. You're a smart guy. How were you so easily conned?
In what way?
I mean,
saying that, like, well, no, he's going to do what he says he's going to do.
What do you mean?
The guy
Like,
that
give me
you
specifics.
guys spent. This is just the funniest thing about Trump. You guys spent years saying that, well, he doesn't always, he just kind of says some shit. He's not always serious. He just, and it's like, and now he's like, I can't believe you lied to us. It's like, really? Because that seems like the most predictable thing ever, based on everything that you guys were saying about him. That he fucking lies and can't be taken at face value all the time. But who am I to say?
Like, I appreciate the line of thought, but you got to be specific.
Give me a specific about something that you voted for Donald Trump to do.
Tariffs.
How did that work out?
Oh,
Fantastic for me.
Yeah, we're all rich, right? We're all cruising. That's working out for us.
Well, I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding among people who don't do manufacturing or run businesses on the issue of tariffs. So for me, the issue of trade control was extremely important. We don't see it from the Democratic Party, so I voted for that. Trump did it, and I fully acknowledge that there's negative repercussions, but it's called spending money to fix problems down the road.
Why are you willing to erode the Constitution, something that you so vehemently fought for?
No, I think Democrats erode the Constitution substantially more.
How?
Uh-oh.
So,
open borders.
We can talk about the First Amendment. We can talk about the Biden administration going in and get people banned. That's the easiest one.
Right, yeah.
We can talk about the Fourth Amendment.
I remember that nasty Democrat, Brandon Carr, who took down Jimmy Kimmel, the stand-up comedian that I also am.
What did Carr say?
He made a call directly to NBC. Why should unilateral government power be used like that? And why are you just saying, I condemn that, but you're actively doing nothing to fight it?
No, I think the issue largely is regulatory bodies exist. I agree with the existence of regulatory bodies. Sometimes they do things you don't like. You didn't like it here, but I'm sure you like regulatory bodies elsewhere. So I'm not going to come out and pretend to be angry about something that is complicated or litigation we don't understand because it's tribal points for me. I'm going to say, what did Brendan Carr actually say? What did he actually say when he called NBC?
You need to take Jimmy Kimmel down.
He did not say that.
Then what did he say?
Oh
I don't know.
my
And that's why I don't have
God, and he tries to weasel it back to this. Oh my God, dude. It's actually so shameless. These people are shameless.
Strong opinion about the issue.
I don't have a strong opinion about freedom. He says the First Amendment so many times. He doesn't have an opinion about the FCC making a phone call to get a guy removed from the air. Really?
It's good voted out by the majority.
Epic.
I appreciate it.
Sick name, by the way.
If you'd like to be the next debater, please head to the chair in 3,
means.
2, 1.
Welcome back.
So the whole point of it being like, oh, it's the left, it's the right. I'm a constitutional abolitionist.
Oh my God.
I want it gone. Who's the Constitution
White
written for?
men. He's going to
It's
say
written
white
for
men.
the original American colonists who started this country.
Which were
largely white Protestants.
So it was written for white men that own land, right?
Mostly, yes.
Yeah, perfect. And after
Oh,
that,
boy.
everyone else has been given rights, right?
They've not been given rights. I would argue that over a long enough period of time, there's been advocacy to make the Constitution protect against a government infringement. The Constitution
So
doesn't give
given
you
the rights that protect the white men that own land. Everyone else.
I don't think we're disagreeing. I'm saying the Constitution
Right.
doesn't give us the rights. It stops the government from doing things.
Yeah, sure. It gives you the protection from blah, blah, blah. Fine.
Yeah, and it was like overwhelmingly white European
Yeah,
male
so the point that
landowners.
I'm making is we've seen throughout the history of our country that other people have been attacked, right? Every other marginalized group has been attacked. There's been amendments, there's been back and forth, whether people do or do not have access to rights. The whole point that I'm getting to is the United States Constitution needs to be thrown out completely. Thomas Jefferson agrees with me.
Well,
Thomas
that's an
Jefferson said that the Constitution should be rewritten every 19 years. Now, around that time, they were dying early, so I'm thinking it was like 50 years or whatever. But he made the point that if we actually have legislation, laws, or a constitution that governs people in the future based off of what we've written, then we're doing an injustice. So saying that we should uphold something that was written 250 years ago when I was 3/5 of a person, like, what are we doing?
Oh, back then it was worse than that.
Yeah, no.
Compromising.
Have you read the 1619 Project?
No.
Okay, cool.
A
The reason
little
the
bit,
Constitution
but
and
not the whole
the way the United States government is set up, it's literally because the founding fathers were slave owners. They were
I
racist
think-
slave owners that wanted to uphold that power, and they wanted to give the power to the states.
Well,
so
there's
they can
a lot of
uphold
context
slavery.
missing from that. You're familiar with the issue of the Declaration of Independence in South Carolina and Georgia. Thomas Jefferson was angry with the king for bringing slaves to the colonies. I'm
No.
not saying he wasn't a
No,
racist.
he wasn't.
He wanted to include a
One
provision
of the
where he
biggest
said-
reasons for the Revolutionary War is because Britain no longer wanted to uphold chattel slavery,
Well, I mean,
and the
that's-
colonies wanted to because they had been so successful
The Southern
as far
colonies
as making
did.
money. The
And-
colonies, period.
The Southern colonies did.
The colonies, period.
I mean,
Now,
this is getting-
after the Civil War, then they shifted away where you saw kind of a split where the northern colonies didn't want it as much as the southern colonies.
Well, that's before the Civil
That's
War.
besides the point.
This is around 1820, in fact.
No, I'm saying after the.
Around 18.
Not after the Civil War. I'm sorry, after the Revolutionary War.
Right. So yes, very shortly after the Revolutionary War, Thomas Jefferson had written a statement for the Declaration that stated, "The king has brought people to this land to wage war against us." Something to that effect. And South Carolina and Georgia contested to its inclusion in the Declaration because they wanted slavery so bad. But don't get me wrong, all
One
of the colonists did. We agree on
One
that.
of the biggest drivers was the fact that there was a slave that was in the colonies, and his slave owner took him to Britain, and Britain actually had a rule that no one could be slaves, and so he was able to win his freedom for being in Britain, and that shook the foundation of the colonies, which forced them to actually push forward the Revolutionary War and then come with the United States Constitution. The point that I'm trying to make is the United States Constitution needs to be abolished because it does not protect all the people. We need to completely rewrite the United States Constitution and give protections to everyone. Everyone needs to have equal rights under the protection of the law. We can,
let
we
me
can
ask
go
you,
back and forth about
what,
everything else.
Do you think that you're allowed to have the opinion you like the Constitution, all that stuff? I'm not going to argue. How do you think this country would react if you were successful in abolishing the Constitution?
Yeah, I think that it will be a violent revolution.
Pause here. We're out of time.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
He's picking that guy. He's picking that dude.
Tim, it's time for the final debate. You'll have 10 minutes
ready.
uninterrupted.
Get ready
now
for
look
it.
around the room.
It's gonna
and
be that
choose
guy.
who you would like to continue the dialogue with.
I think
Oh,
I'll
it's-
go with. I like this guy.
Why did you choose Luke?
He had asked me questions about why I believed what I believe or why I would vote the way that I did,
Oh,
and
shit.
I thought he was genuine. I thought we could have a good conversation. So I'm interested in hearing also what he thinks and what he believes, and where maybe we'll disagree and agree.
My surrounding claim is that in 2026, all moderates are cowards.
True. Depending on what he means by
All right,
moderates,
well,
but yeah.
No.
Sure. Yeah.
And I certainly don't think I am. I think that one of the biggest problems that we have in this country is media polarization.
Totally.
There are family members of mine that only watch MS Now, and there are family members of mine that only watch Fox News, and I watch both. And so then I see, when I turn on MS Now, the only thing they're talking about is going to be in one direction. I turn on Fox News, the only thing they're talking about is the other direction. And this makes people really on edge and then say, I need to be on one side. It crafts a moral worldview. While I certainly understand your point, actually, let me do this. Are you saying take a side, stand up for something?
More or less. I'm saying that over the last, we'll say, 26 years, right, we have been, well, barring 2016. So from 2000 to 2016, we were kind of controlled by a centrist government. And I feel like that, even though Barack Obama was a progressive for his time, we view him now as pretty centrist, right? We're in a room full of progressives.
I would agree.
This guy means the other type of moderate.
Just even back then as well.
Right. That opened the door for someone like Donald Trump to come in and actively erode our Constitution and the very foundation that our country is supposed to be.
Well, is your argument that everyone should be against Donald Trump then?
No.
So then what's your gripe with moderates?
Centrism and moderation in 2026 in the age of AIPAC money.
Oh, no. Oh,
in
no.
the age of
Go back, go
Larry
back, go back.
Ellison, Barry
No.
Weiss, all of these talking heads, all of these political entities, Peter Thiel, Mark Zuckerberg, all these, this technocracy that we are not far from, right? Why do you get to sit in the middle and argue both sides while raking in dollars from these exact entities?
Well, what's your proposal? I guess I'm trying to understand. My view of what it means to be moderate is that sometimes the right is correct and sometimes the left is
Wow,
correct.
so brave. Sure.
And I think
What a
my
brave
view
take.
is
Wow.
I come from interestingly, the area of Chicago where I grew up has turned red. It's firefighters, it's cops, it's working class Joes.
Why is that?
That it turned red?
Yeah.
I think for a lot of these people, they feel that the Democratic establishment has abandoned them on a few issues.
Mm-hmm.
The mass migration that we saw, or the large migration, call it whatever you want.
Wasn't there a huge, like you're saying, wasn't there a huge migration of blue to red and red to blue, right? You made that claim.
You mean like
earlier.
California to Texas?
Sure.
And New York
Inner
to
city
Florida?
Chicago to outer city Chicago, suburbs, things like that.
Yeah, the people in my neighborhood didn't really move. They don't have the money to do so.
Sure.
So there is a large migration. It doesn't mean every neighborhood migrated, but particularly for where I grew up, it's interesting that the politics of the neighborhood kind of tracked alongside myself. Like in 2016, I was for Bernie. The area where I grew up, it was like largely blue. I didn't vote for anybody. In 2020, I said, I guess I'm going to vote for Trump. That's the things I don't like about him, but here's what I agree with him, what I don't like.
Why
Joe
did
Biden.
you vote for him?
You know, he was funny.
Well, unfortunately, I think one of the big issues with Afghanistan, and I'm not going to say Trump's done well with Iran, particularly, you know what I mean? But there was an issue of, for one, I was for Tulsi Gabbard. I donated the maximum to Tulsi and to Andrew Yang.
How's Tulsi doing?
Moderately well. I mean, she's not particularly in the political limelight as of right now. But
Not particularly in the political limelight. When was this episode filmed? You know she got like kicked out, right? Wait, hello? Did I miss something?
I do believe she's going to try and run a spoiler candidacy against Democrats.
Sure.
But
How's Andrew Yang doing?
Andrew Yang not doing so well. I mean, he's got the Ford Party, but
Why do you think that?
Why do I think what?
Why do you think that Andrew Yang is not succeeding in today's day?
Because I believe the Democratic machine, like they did to Bernie, ices out anybody who wants to actually win up on a populist grassroots level. And I don't know how to vote for someone like Joe Biden, who I think is evil. And I think him and the administration, Hillary Clinton, have done such horrible things that I said we need. Like Andrew Yang was my principal guy. A big fan of Tulsi as well, largely because she had military service and was in opposition to these foreign wars. And when we didn't get it for the second time, I said, I guess I'm voting for Donald Trump for a few reasons. He was the only one talking about why we need trade controls. And I agree with these trade controls, but I fully recognize that they do cause short-term economic damage. And that's
The
bad for a
Rocketers
lot of
have
people.
to like fire they have to have an open line. They can't be in the middle, right? They can't shoot through things. They have to be at the edge of your ship.
Recognize that.
Why?
Why are we in the position, or why as a country did we end up in that issue with trade? Why did that happen?
There's a lot of arguments for it. If you go back to the 90s, you can look at these general free trade agreements. The belief from a lot of individuals is that when there's trade agreements between countries, you prevent war.
Who passed those?
These laws? Yeah. That go back to both parties since 1950.
Sure.
So
but in the 50s, who passed? Like, where did they align?
Was it Hawaii? Both parties. We call it the Uniparty.
I would say they'd probably be pretty close to the center, right? One would call them a moderate.
We call them the Uniparty.
Okay.
I don't think moderate's the right way to describe a cabal of elites who lie about their views to attract the most voters possible and steal power from the working class.
Sure.
Like moderate just means.
So if you believe that, what are your views? In 1950, where are you voting? Where are you casting your vote?
Oh, I'm not voting for any of these people.
Well, so
to be fair, I think we're the products of the 1950s. We have all very strange political views. But I would say right now, are you familiar with the liberal economic order?
Yes.
I think it was insane. And then the policies that we got from it leading up to before Trump came in was the continuance of this policy by which the United States imposes economic sanctions and military.
This is why you can never send the far lefties to debate like if somebody's going to do the populist grift because they'll end up agreeing on everything basically.
International banking system, and they thought, you know what, this will prevent World War III, and did it? No.
So how
entered into
is that?
Foreign sovereign nations and took away the rights of the people to vote as they wish.
How is that different, like the central bank entity, right? How is that different than most of the individuals on the right taking money from APEC?
That's not a good thing. I don't agree with that. Those are bad things.
Then why do you actively support that? Why do you actively support a president who's made billions of dollars since he's taken office? Why do you support that as somebody who loved Bernie?
The simple answer is the things that I align with, clearly you don't align with, and that puts me in a Trump position as opposed to a Democrat position.
Sure.
You have a lot of politicians on the Democrat side who got behind authoritarian practices during COVID. I'm not going to support those individuals.
So, but the authoritarian practices today, you're willing to look past.
Some of them, yes.
Come on, man. Come on. Like,
do you want me to lie to you?
I like my authoritarian policies.
No, I don't want you to lie to me, and I'm so thankful that you're being honest. And I'm glad these cameras can see that, and I hope your fan base can.
And I say this every single night on my show. It is silly that you get people who come on here and try to defend the indefensible. Like sometimes you're a conservative and you're wrong. Sometimes you're a Democrat and you're wrong.
Sure.
It's silly to come here and be like, no matter what the argument is, I have to tribalistically defend something that's stupid.
Enlightened centrism.
But here's the issue: there are things that Democrats have done that terrify me, and I cannot support. Now that being said,
is there good that they've done?
There's a possibility. The one thing I like to shout out for Joe Biden is banking and ATM issues. I know it seems a little light, but I can't believe that the right attacked Joe Biden on the issue of trying to get rid of ATM fees. I know it might sound so light, but you got to start from the bottom.
It sounds like a very safe Republican moderate belief. And and dude, you are entitled to have those beliefs.
Yeah.
And like, we live in this country. We are allowed to disagree. This Constitution that you allege is fully eroded, we still have the ability to do this, and that fucking rules. But I will say, we've all seen what's been going on in our country this summer. We've been holding the World Cup here. We've been seeing people come here and see this country for what it truly is, and they fucking love it.
They love it.
Right?
It's great.
What do they love about it?
Well, I love when they went to Chicago and got the deep dish pizza.
Right.
I love the people who said
Where'd
that
that deep dish pizza come from?
Giordano's?
Yeah. Okay, that's that last name. That doesn't sound like an American last name. Where'd that pizza come from?
It came from America.
Immigrants.
It didn't.
No, it didn't.
Chicago-style deep dish came from Chicago.
But it's
let's say the descendants of immigrants, if you want to get technical.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is these
because American-style pizza was uniquely American and distinct from Italian-style pizza.
Totally, I
Do you know where
completely
chicken
agree.
tikka masala
But
comes
it's
from?
still pizza.
Yeah,
It is
a British inclination. I get it. Like I fully get it, man.
We agree. It's amazing.
You are talking to a 365-pound man with a knife tattoo. You think I don't know where tikka masala is from, dog?
We love it. We agree.
I mean, I don't love that it's their national dish.
Bro,
I think.
I'm part Korean. I had family who fled war and came to America and were welcomed in the beautiful bosom of this nation to live an amazing life.
Then why are you voting for an entity that wants to erase that?
They don't want to erase it. I think you have a misconception. I think it comes down to, I look at a Biden administration that brings in there's wide estimates from 4 to even upwards of 20 million, right? And if you pick what number you think is right or what's wrong, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
we saw mass migration into this country on a large scale, and I think that is bad for the economy. I think it's bad for the younger generation, and I see ideologies pushed by Democratic Party politicians and activists that I think are detrimental to the future of the younger generation of this country, namely my child.
So we keep talking about this Civil War issue, these secessions and everything. The big issue that's going on geopolitically is we've got a massive fucking target on our back. Wouldn't you want more people to be in this country to fight against that? Wouldn't you want more
What's
hands?
the target? Like, who's the threat?
We are. Israel, through us, is a threat. So we have.
But you're saying like there's going to be retaliation in the United States from
Absolutely.
terror targets?
They are hanging banners calling for the assassination of our sitting president. Yeah. And I don't agree with that. I don't want that to happen. If that were to happen, I do not like the outcome that's going to.
I don't see how bringing in more people from around the world, which whether right or wrong, changes that.
Isn't a larger country stronger? Isn't China vastly more advanced than we are?
Not necessarily, no.
Yes, they are.
Is India? Like they have high levels of poverty in certain areas. I think
they exist within a caste system.
Is that real? Can somebody fact check that? India has really high levels of poverty in certain areas? That's fucking crazy. Holy shit.
We're comparing different things.
I think the United States likes to put on these airs, particularly Republicans, about how everything's perfect and great. When it's not, you've got slums. Japan does this. China does this.
Yeah.
It's hard to gauge which country is going to be the pinnacle of success of their ground populations.
I don't want us to be the pinnacle. I want us to be the country that we should be.
Which is?
A country that continues to change and grow and develop and welcome people
I'm
in.
going to pause here. We are out of time. So I want to thank you both. I want to thank all the debaters.
It was great, man.
Guys, we came together.
You guys brought a lot of passion.
We came together and we loved,
Tim, I want to
guys.
thank you for taking them all on. That is not easy. Would you like to continue this conversation on our podcast?
Yeah, absolutely.
Love to hear it.
Yeah, thank you.
And I love that you guys watched and tuned in. Thank you for watching and catch us next time.
I think it was great. I think
loved
everybody did a pretty good job. As long as we're trying to have a real conversation and get to the heart of it, things usually work out well. Although there was that one guy who seemed really mad at me. You know?
I came here holding Tim to a very high standard.
You did us dirty.
That of at least a 5-year-old.
You were supposed to be the civility debater, and instead you were just mean to poor Tim, the beanie guy.
Grade school.
I mostly think that Tim doesn't care about what the fallout of his rhetoric is. He's primarily focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's generating profit.
Well, when you tell me that because I want to vote for what I believe and I'm making civil war happen, that's just proving my point.
I think Tim stood on his own 2 feet about his beliefs.